everyone for coming. I'm going to call this meeting to order at 6:35. Could you please join me for the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Is there anyone here who would like to address the council for something that is not on the agenda? All right. That was a nice wait time, right? We have some awards. Lieutenant Weatherby and Chief Lamont. Thanks.
Lieutenant Weatherby is not here, so Lieutenant Tyler is here. Lieutenant Coach here. First of all, I think a lot of you are here for the awards, which is great. We appreciate it, and the City Council for allowing us to do this. We don't give out a lot of awards. I've been in this department for almost 7 years. I think we've given out like 4, so it's not very often that we do this. So there is some prestige to this on our part on issuing them, and I think it speaks a lot to the person that's receiving them. So the first one I'd like to give out is to Mr. Perkins, who I just met in the parking lot. Do you mind stepping up here, sir? I know you brought some family with you, which is great. So
came on their own report.
That's also very, very good. It speaks to your character. So this is Mr. William Perkins. I'm just going to read what Lieutenant Weatherby, who isn't here, actually wrote these up. So I'll read what he wrote. And this is a civilian citation award that we give out to the department. So this is for an event that happened at the emergency room here in St. Albans, which we're all familiar with, and a lot of us have been there either for ourselves or our family. So it affects the whole community. So on April 25th, 2026, 8:30 in the morning, William Perkins was at the emergency room waiting area at Northwestern Medical Center. It was at this time that Mr. Perkins observed a female enter the lobby. Upon entering, she began pointing a pistol at civilians and hospital staff. Although Mr. Perkins was there to seek treatment for his back, he was using a cane to walk. He had fortitude to approach the armed suspect and tried to reason with her to drop the firearm. The subject refused and struck Mr. Perkins in the face and neck with a pistol 3 times. Mr. Perkins lunged at the subject and pulled the gun from her hand, pushed her to the ground, and restrained her. After Mr. Perkins took control of the firearm, he secured it with a witness who gave it to the hospital staff. In this incident, Mr. Perkins displayed personal courage in putting himself at the risk for the sake of others. The St. Albans Police Department extends their gratitude for his decision and actions during this event. We wish to recognize Mr. Perkins for his job. Well done. Said very low to me that he wasn't expecting anything for what he did. So again, not everybody steps up to the plate, and I understand she came towards you, but you still that we had to protect our business there, including yourself. So we greatly appreciate it. I know the hospital has some people here in the room who also greatly appreciate it, as well as everyone else that was at the hospital that day. Thank you.
Thank you.
So I've got the second one, which I wrote. I took great pride in writing this. And as you can see here in the crowd, except for everybody on TV, sport, a lot of schools. This is a direct result of the education and the training that this person received from our community here at the school. So, come on up. Adam Martin. So, on April 15th, 2025, at approximately 1900 hours, this year, at 1900 hours, Madam Martin witnessed a serious motor vehicle crash. Ms. Martins immediately and without hesitation acted in accordance with her training at the NCTC Public Safety Program. Ms. Martin witnessed the vehicle collide with a tree, resulting in severe damage. Ms. Martin immediately approached the scene and observed that the sole occupant was severely injured, as evident by the amount of blood covering the facial area, neck, and chest. The driver was in and out of consciousness. Seeing that the car had started to catch fire, Ms. Martin immediately and single-handedly extricated the driver from the vehicle, moved her to a safe location, and positioned her to keep the airway open, where she was able to render life-saving measures should it become necessary. While her friend, who was also with her, called 911. Shortly after the driver was extricated, the vehicle was fully engulfed and later extinguished by the fire department. The driver spent a few days in the hospital, including the intensive care unit. and is expected to recover. In this incident, Ms. Martin displayed personal courage in putting herself at risk for the sake of others. The San Luis Police Department extends their gratitude for her decisions and acting during these events.
Thank you so much. And thank you for your service to our communities. Greatly appreciated. If you were here for the award, you're welcome to stay for the rest of our meeting, or you can make a graceful exit if you'd like. I thought so. It's Hi, Lieutenant Talley.
Hello.
You are next on the agenda for a traffic enforcement discussion. Thanks for being here. Appreciate it. So this has been a hot topic for all of us for a while, and just wanted to check in with you about e-bikes, loud vehicles, speeding vehicles, all the fun stuff that I think every community in Vermont is dealing with right now.
Yeah. Well, I guess let me introduce to you some of my specialties, my training, and stuff like that. So I'm a lieutenant here at the San Luis Police Department. This is my 20th year at the department. I am the lead motor vehicle law instructor for the Vermont Police Academy and have been since 2000. So I teach down there 88 hours a year. I'm also licensed in the state of Vermont to teach driver's ed, which I do here in the community as well. So I would like to think I'm very knowledgeable with traffic laws and stuff like that, especially since I teach it. So to get right into some of the data, and for the last 30 days, just to give you an idea, since it's been warmer, we've conducted 51 direct patrols, which is where we go and we specifically position ourselves out on the road to look for speeders, noise, or any traffic violation. During those 51 patrols, we've conducted 267 traffic stops in 30 days. Some of those result in warnings, or most of them result in warnings. At least 26 of them are resulting in issuance of tickets. 4 of the stops have resulted in arrest. The reasons for stops range from red lights, stop lights, some defective equipment, speeding. At least 75 of them were directly related to speeding. One of them was a starting parked vehicle squealing the tires that they were able to witness. And at least one of them resulted in a pursuit, which was all over social media not too long ago. So, in the future, we have 2 days planned in July and 2 in August, where we are bringing officers in off duty. We're going to do a big saturation patrol, so we'll have be about 4 additional officers out there focused on traffic enforcement for those days. VSP and other agencies have had great success with this. We've done it in the years past. We know it formally as DDAX, data-driven. So take the data and that's where we go. So we have 4 of those, 2 different days, 2 different times on those 2 days. 4 different days, 2 different times that will do that. Those are the quick stats. I can answer any questions that you have. I'm sure there's lots.
When you say data,
Yeah.
I don't know if you've told me this or Lieutenant Weatherby, the boxes that you put up
Yep.
to collect data from cars driving by tells you where to send your officers, where is like the hot spots are.
Yeah, we know some hotspots just from the daily activities. When we start getting complaints from the citizens as, hey, there's something going on here, then we can redirect that box and go put it up there and send it up there for a week and get some data. I mean, we obviously aren't going to go sit somewhere at 3 o'clock in the morning when there's no traffic, that's far-fetched, but
Yeah.
you know, if there's a speeding problem, say at 2 in the afternoon versus 8 in the morning, well, we should focus on 2 in the afternoon. So that helps us with the decision making of where we're going to go, when we're going to go.
Does the data show as much of a speeding problem as we all think?
Subjective. I guess, what do you consider speeding?
Well, I
Because-
mean,
How fast do you go over the speed limit?
So Vermont law is absolute. As soon as you are doing 1 mile over the speed limit, you are legally speeding and you can receive a speeding ticket for doing 1 over. Officers are given great discretion on how they enforce it.
I
And
mean,
it's up to
it
them.
looks like cars are like zooming down Main Street. Are they going as fast as we think they are, right? So if the speed limit is 25 on Main Street, are cars going 30, 40, 50?
In the rare case, they may be exceeding 40, 45 miles per hour here, but most of them you're going to see between 35 or less. And during the day, like now where it's all congested, not even that high.
You'll probably get into this, maybe, but a lot of complaints that we've been hearing is the noise.
Yep.
Do you find that the same vehicles that are causing those noises are the ones that are speeding? And so do those boxes that collect the data, do they also collect that, or is it kind of the same vehicles?
It does not collect sound.
Yeah.
And with the sound, we have to be present there to witness it and hear it. But the technology we have does not collect sound. There is that technology out there, but that is pricing. We don't have it in our budget, hasn't been proposed or anything like
The way that, the speed spy doesn't collect anything but time and speed. It doesn't collect license plates, colors of vehicles, and just time and speed.
But can you pretty much anticipate that it's the same vehicles? Do you feel like it's,
that. I don't think it is.
What power do you have for the vehicles that have the altered exhaust system that has been inspected or maybe not, and then is causing a lot of noise pollution? What,
Yep, I think there's a couple things there.
okay,
So I have lost court cases. When an inspection station inspects the vehicle, the judge will say, well, if one state agency is saying it's okay and the other one is saying it's no, I'm going with the one that says it's okay. So if it's getting inspected, the recourse that we have is to report it to DMV, and hopefully the Department of Motor Vehicle Inspectors will go do their investigation, fine, maybe they've had previous warnings and take action that way.
okay.
But we are losing it in court because one state agency, if you will, the inspection stations are saying it is legal.
Now, does that loss have anything to do with the fact that our law is more subjective than objective as far as the rate, like actually picking up the decibel levels versus what the officer is thinking? You know, like you might hear different levels than the moth hears.
So as far as the inspection stations, no, there's no sound decibels
audio,
with that.
noise.
But the audio, that is going to be very subjective. Somebody may think it's okay, and especially if we were standing outside, I was sitting outside with a gentleman. Motorcycle going by, it's reverberating off in the walls and the concrete. It's much louder than if it's out in the open. And we had the conversation, it's like, is that illegal? No, that's not illegal. And then you rev his engine, that is what we can go enforce. When he starts revving the engine, it's their performance. It's what they're purposely doing to make their engine louder, whether it's revving, keeping the gears high in RPMs to make it louder.
The two-stage.
Yep. But we have to be there to be able to witness it or hear it. So,
I only ask because I know that Weir's had a decibel level requirement. They were able to go by vehicles with the decibel meters and actually say, no, this is already too loud because it's already over this distance, or it's already over this level at 10 feet. And you can tell by even revving.
yep. That's part of the technology that I had alluded to earlier that is out there, but we don't have the decibel meters.
Is that something that would be helpful?
Any technology would be helpful. The technology that I had in mind, I mean, anything that's just not going to give us data and have information to say, hey, well, yep, we have a noise problem here.
And that would be helpful, but that's going to depend on an officer then going there and at that time watching it and listening for it. And it's still going to be subjected by the officer unless they have that device. There's technology out there that is like, I'll give it's the equivalent of a red light camera. Set it on a pole, it has the decibel, it's calibrated, it measures it, and when it detects something that is over what we set it at, then it takes a picture of the license plate of the operator. Some of it will automatically send tickets. Otherwise, it's going to be up to us to decipher who is operating. If we can prove it, then maybe send the ticket that way.
Are there communities in Vermont that have that technology?
I'm not aware of that.
Because I know I've not personally gotten a ticket. But someone in my family did from out of state.
Yeah. A lot of states have red light cameras and stuff like that. I'm sure they even have the sound stuff. I believe Burlington was looking into camera lights.
There are several states that are getting rid of those too. Let me ask you this.
Sure.
Would we ever have those here? Would you ever advocate for those? Let me sharpen my question.
Yeah.
Putting you on the spot.
No,
You know what I worry about when we first took this initiative on with you?
Yep.
I was worried that robotically, the police officers were going to go out ticketing the citizens of St. Albans City. And it was going to be an open pocketbook for the department and not good for the citizens. What you've said tonight, and what because I haven't heard any complaints, that you're using police officer discretion when you're time of day, and I don't think that those devices do. And if me or him or some of these people out here, and it's 11:30 at night, and they're going down Main Street at 27 miles an hour, and that camera points and says that you're speeding and you get a ticket in the mail, versus you picking up me or him or one of these people saying, hey, it's 11:30 at night, not a lot of traffic out, slow it down, have a good evening. And that's, I'm glad you said something, like, on police officer discretion. That's what I think I want to be here.
Yeah. That is there, and I would advocate for that technology, but there's got to be that discretion. We don't have to set it absolute. Maybe for speeding, you said 27 or 25. If you sit here and say, hey, 10 over, 15 over, regardless of what the traffic is sufficient for somebody to get a ticket, then set the parameters at that. Adjust it so there's your discretion. And it could be the same thing with the noise technology. If it's 80 decibels, set it at 120. And if it reaches 120, you are obviously well above, or whatever the actual decibels will be, you're obviously well above it.
A few weeks ago, I got a phone call that my mother had fallen in her apartment up by the complex. I wasn't going the speed limit on the way up there. A camera would have probably said, I got a ticket.
Yep.
You probably would have said, I understand. This is an exception to the rule.
Yes.
How many complaints?
So, I'm
Sorry, go ahead.
One second. So with that, right, I don't think
We'll get to
Vermont,
the public, yes.
I don't believe Vermont has the appetite for the absolute, like we set it and the camera and the ticket system automatically sends that ticket off to the owner or the operator. I think it's got to be sent by the officer. The appetite is still that the defendant will have to be able to face the accuser, which would then be an officer, myself on the other side of that computer, looking at the camera, looking at the ticket, saying, yeah, okay, send you the ticket or talking to them. But to make it absolute send it, I don't think there's an appetite for that.
I don't think that the camera ones either affect your insurance, your driving record, or anything, because they can't really prove who's driving. So it just goes to the registered vehicle. Because I lived in Maryland and they have them everywhere. They even will tell you if you don't have insurance for 20 minutes and you get hit one of those cameras, you get a fine. Like that's how much they use them down there.
There's something I as a police officer would be okay with that the registered owner is responsible for, but somebody's speeding, I can't say who it was, that ticket should not be insured.
So yeah, because down there everything just goes to whoever the car's registered to, and it doesn't matter if it was your kid driving or you let your friend take your car. or anything like that, it all goes to the registered driver.
Go ahead.
So I've definitely seen more traffic stops, and definitely more presence in the town. So, how many community complaints do you get, like in a summer? Thousands, hundreds?
In the summer,
Like, are we up this summer from last summer? I mean, I'm just roughly. You know, are we having like a bigger problem in the summer?
Like speeding and noise complaints?
Yeah.
Like traffic,
so
e-bikes.
the complaints are always going to be there. I don't think I have data to sit there and say it's going to be, we get 1,000 complaints for the summer or 500 complaints. I would be comfortable saying it's a daily thing where we get at least one complaint saying, hey, they're here, this, or something like that. You know, I think we're fortunate our calls for services are down, which has allowed us to focus more on traffic, and our traffic stop for this time compared to last year are up, but calls for services down, traffic stops are up because we're able to. Today, they had about 30 calls for services just on day shift. They were able to get to 2 traffic stops, and there's going to be some of those days. So not every day it's going to be 10, 15, 20 traffic stops. It's going to be call volume dependent.
And I think that's a really good point for all of us to understand in the community is you have to prioritize in your jobs. And if you have more pressing matters, the traffic stops might not happen, but it's great to hear that they have been upped since for the last month, you said? Like great.
I just ran the data for the last month, but from 1 January to 8 June of this year compared to the same time frame last year, call volumes were down, but our traffic enforcement is up this year by 150 more.
That's awesome.
Ish.
Okay. Does anyone on the council have any other questions or comments before we open it up for public comment?
I guess I do. I asked, so I'm the chair of the Public Safety Committee, and Lieutenant Weatherby came to our last meeting, and we talked for a couple hours about this, and one of my questions for him was, what can community members do if there is a vehicle that is constant? Well, like, in different examples, if there's a vehicle that is flying down their street and there's kids playing basketball in the driveway and it can cause some horrific accident, do they call you guys with the plate number? Like, what should the community do, whether it's someone flying down the street or repeated noise complaints all the time? Like, what's the best thing for the community to do?
Absolutely. I mean, don't keep secrets. If you see something, say something. Let's go to any situation. If we don't know that the noise complaints are happening, we won't go there. But that's another data set that we can take is the complaints from the public. We don't need the technology for that. We can just depend on the community members. Say, hey, this time, this same vehicle, and you know, I did that. We got the complaint on Ferrer Street. I went up there, we put the spy box up, or the speed spy, and it just so happened that I missed the highest speed by 5 minutes that day. Went back a couple days later and got that vehicle that was speeding.
Because it's tough because we have ordinance, but it's about for noise, but it's like,
It's hard to
how do
enforce.
we enforce it, you know?
It would have to be something that, in my opinion, that would stand in court and it can't be subjective. So it falls back on, I actually have the ordinance here. It's the number 3, paragraph 3 of the vehicle noise. It's something that the operator is doing. Revving the engine, keeping it in higher gear, 2-step.
And you say you have to hear it in order to pull them over? You have to be right there.
Well, Vermont, any legal system, you have to be able to confront your accuser. So if you want to give me a sworn statement that, you know, Mr. Johnson did X, Y, and Z, I can write Mr. Johnson that ticket, but when he brings me to court, I'm bringing you, and it's your testimony versus his. Because I did not witness it.
It's just hard to know what to tell our constituents, right? You know?
But calling the non-emergency number.
Call non-emergency.
The same car goes flying by your house every day at, 7:30
Yep.
p.m., make and model, call the non-emergency number and give the information. And even if you can't give them a ticket, doesn't mean you couldn't knock on the door and say, hey,
If we can figure out who it is, yes, we can knock on the door, knock it down, knock it off. Or we go sit there and we do see it. And
Right.
maybe it won't rise to that officer's discretion to give a ticket, but we can go give them a warning.
And I believe that you have done that before around the e-bikes and the little,
Yeah.
with the kids.
Yeah.
That's a whole other discussion. Believe me, that's happening all over the state.
I'm ready for that one.
And I met with a bunch of other mayors last week, and this is a conversation that every city's having, and they're focusing on education, just pushing out information about what is and what isn't legal, specifically so that parents know, and they're considering partnering with schools to educate. Obviously it doesn't do us good right now, but it's something that I thought was a good idea.
Can I address it right now for anybody who's listening?
Absolutely, please.
So without going through all the definitions and exactly what the statute says, it comes down to if that bike has pedals, up moving pedals. It's a bicycle. If it has stationary pegs like a dirt bike, it's got to be registered, it's got to be inspected, it's got to be insured, and the operator needs to have a license. It doesn't matter if it's a battery-operated electric thing or if it's combustion. So if it's got stationary pegs and your muscles are not propelling that vehicle, it's a motor vehicle. It's got to be registered, inspected, insured.
Regardless of the age.
Regardless. Yep. Where it goes from not needing a motorcycle endorsement is based on the engine size and the speed. So if it doesn't have pedals, it's not a bike. It's a motor vehicle. That's the simplest way to look at these things that we're seeing.
Any other questions from the council before I open it up to our patient audience?
I think that the common time that we're seeing is Fairfield Street in the evenings, 9:30 to 10:30. It's hard because I know you guys have less officers on. I'm not sure what you can say, kind of what level of enforcement we are getting at night at all. I mean, I know we have less traffic on the road, but we are still dealing with the noise. And that's pretty consistent. Especially with windows opening, you hear it more, but I know with windows closed this winter, mine were rattling a few times. There's a lot of trucks going over the hill, pickup trucks, a lot of pipes.
So I can speak a little bit. The roads, the streets are hitting the hardest right now are those Fairfield, Congress, all up those streets, and they haven't stopped any for noise as of yet. Those are the ones that are hitting right now.
Any other
He's
questions?
on nights right now, so it looks like.
Thank you. Lucky you. Any other questions? All right. If you, are you comfortable just introducing yourself and speaking from the audience so we can hear you?
Sure, of course.
Thanks.
So, hi, my name is Paula. I live on Lower Weldon. I'm here mostly due to the noise, the Mylan traffic or whatever they're called now, area or whatever. At 11 o'clock at night, some of them have the really, really loud motorcycles, and they sit at the top of Lower Weldon and just roll, roll, and you can hear them. I swear they get on the highway, and you can hear them halfway down the highway. And I work at 6 a.m., so I am up at 3:30 a.m. So it's a little disturbing. But I'm also here because I'm a creature of habit, and I go to the dog park, as Dominic knows, every single day. And I change the way I go home now because between Upper Weldon and Lower Weldon, around 4:30, 5 o'clock, she'll attest to it too because they live on Main Street. You can't just take a green for a green. I've seen school buses blow through it. I've seen big trucks blow through it. I've seen cars blow through it. I have to stop and it turns green, and you literally have to make sure both ways stop because 9 times out of 10, someone's gonna blow that light. Every time. So I changed and I go down Fairfield now and turn so I don't have to deal, I have to deal with the traffic in front of the school, but I don't have to deal with almost getting T-boned every single time I go through Upper Weldon to Lower Weldon. It's bad. I walk my dog 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock in the morning, same deal. The other day I was crossing, thank you very much, whoever fixed the crosswalk on the side of Upper Weldon. I hit the button, it turned walk sign, guy plowed right through the light, didn't even hesitate, and everyone else was like, because I was halfway across the street with my dog. I think it's a problem. I don't know how to solve it. I wish I did. You know, the lights, I go to Germany a lot because my daughter lives there. All of their traffic is policed by lights on their things. They don't
They
have
go
police
fast
officers
in Germany.
that make traffic stops.
They have the cameras.
They have cameras everywhere. They police the bikes, they police the automobiles. But I don't know how to solve it, and I also don't understand why we have an ordinance for noise. This is nothing against the police, I love the police, but why do we have an ordinance when we can't really, like Lindsay said, enforce it? You know, I understand the ordinance, I love it, but enforcing it is a whole nother thing. And, you know, I emailed Trudy, you shouldn't have to sleep with 2 noise machines on with open windows if you want to open your windows and have fresh air in the city. But you have to, because some of these, I have 2 motorcycles that live near me that are just so incredibly loud. They sound like popcorn makers on steroids. I wish there was a solution, and that's why I'm here, but I just want to say, I don't think the lights would just be for speeding. I think that the lights, like something on the lights, especially the main lights, would be good. And maybe not all the lights in the city, but maybe some of the lights in the city where people are prone to blowing the red lights and, you know, speeding right through them. My neighbor, in fact, got hit at South Main because someone was speeding and she went 20 miles in the air. Thank God she's okay, but.
Sorry, you're suggesting something like cameras?
Yeah, the cameras, things you were talking about. I mean, they weren't just be for speeding, right? Would they also be for red lights and?
I do not know if there's a technology that combines the two, but I know there's technology out there is for red lights and there's out there for sound.
Oh, interesting.
I did not look far enough to see.
I think you guys do a fabulous job. I'm here out of frustration, just because it is just so loud. These trucks and the motorcycles and some of the cars are just insanely loud, and I wish there was a way to enforce the ordinance.
Thank you for showing up, Paul. I appreciate it. Anyone else have anything to say? Want to introduce yourself?
Hi, Sean, friend of Paula. Everything that she said, and again, what can we do to help support? Because we know that this is taxing on the police department and community. What can we do to help support the team? And I don't see the cameras and electronic surveillance. I don't think that's anything that's going to happen right away. I know that there's other areas in the state of Vermont that have talked about it, and they've all got shot down, from my understanding. I don't know if there'll be any progress anytime within the next 5-6 years. So what can we do in the interim? Noise is definitely an issue. We all know that. Not so much recently, but we have. The train is obnoxiously loud, and I know that there's safety protocols that are in place for that, but in talking with former employees of the train stations, they may be in excess of what they actually should be doing. So it's not as bad as it was, say, 2-3 years ago. But I will say that there are many nights where, you know, we sleep with 2 machines on and a fan, and the windows are closed, air conditioners running. You know, we can still hear the trains as well as the traffic noise.
Yeah, I really appreciate your question, what can we do? Because what you're doing here is exactly what you can do. Is you're giving us exact times and locations rather than we hear a car 2 blocks over that's echoing. That's very difficult, but
Yeah.
exact time and every day, it's exactly what Lieutenant Talley said with traffic speeding. Because we can hit a road, we can hit a street, we can hit a speed spike, or in this case, we can just put somebody down there at that time of night on your lower building for the noise. It's pretty easy to hit that, to hit it, leaving the same location every night for work.
Yeah.
It's not a hard one to see, and then we can try to decipher, is it legal exhaust, is it not legal exhaust, is that how they're operating? But this is what we need. We need examples that are pretty.
I think a lot of this could be pretty vague as far as, like, we know it's a green motorcycle, it goes really
You
fast.
say it's vague.
Wearing a black helmet, you know?
Six hours.
Yeah.
But it's something to go on. It's better than 2 streets over.
Yeah.
Right, even that, the color didn't matter. It's, as Chief just said, 11 o'clock, Lower Weldon, at that time when they're all leaving work.
Yeah.
We can go sit down there and watch and observe them. Happening all the time on the street.
Yeah.
We're probably going to be too busy to go sit there all the time
Of course.
and do that. So
Yeah.
narrowing that down, like you just said, that's what I wrote down.
Say I would never call the non-emergency number because I feel like I would be bothering you and
No,
you
that's
guys
what
have
it's
more time. So I would never do that just because it just feels like, I mean, if I saw something bad happening, then I would call the non-emergency number, but.
But all I'll say is, we don't know, we can't help, and I'm not saying, we don't know, it's just the way it is. I mean, there's a lot of stuff goes on we have 12,000 calls a year roughly. Well, there's probably twice that we don't know about, if we don't know, we don't know.
And I wrote right here, website entry. I don't know if it's possible. I'm sure everything's possible with technology. If we can put something, this isn't my realm, this would be Lieutenant Weatherby's researching it. We'll have to research it. If we can put something there, we have a tip line, but if we can put something in there for vehicle complaints, and then we can print it off in Excel and grab the data.
Here's
versus-
my
versus-
ring camera footage.
Yeah, or versus you having to not wanting to call or not
Yeah.
not
No,
feeling
that
like you
makes
need to
sense.
call the non-emergency, just
Yeah.
input the data there and then
Yeah,
Excel sheet, it comes out, and
yeah.
we can sort, that's easily sorted, like, okay, this is the time,
Yeah.
these are the places.
That's a great, yeah, it is a good idea, because I always feel uncomfortable calling unless I feel it's really a big deal. So I can relate to that feeling of not wanting to call, but if it was like a little tip line that you could just type in your information,
Yeah.
that could save you a phone call, and it would save us that. Anyone else want to comment about traffic or have any questions for our officers? Thank you for being part of the solution.
Yeah.
That is really important. You know, you reached out, I told you about the meeting, here you are, and wanting to be part of solving the problem for our city, so I really do appreciate that.
I don't think that we would have known if we weren't working with communication that this was happening. So I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know how the communication goes out to the public, so they're aware of these type of meetings and what's being discussed.
We have our city website with our agendas listed for the particular meetings, but that's good. That's a good thought to make sure if it's something that might be a hot topic for folks that we maybe push that out, like, hey, we're talking about this, because we do really like to hear from our taxpayers.
I mean, I'm just really glad that I don't have young children anymore, because I don't know how some get them to sleep.
Yeah.
I would be just beside myself.
It's ridiculous what people are spending on some of these exhaust systems to make it something better.
Yes.
Yeah, shake our windows.
Yes.
I saw a hybrid car with a 2-foot tailpipe sticking out of it. Like,
Kind of
it's
defeats
a-
the purpose.
Oh, what?
All right. Anything final from the council? No? Thanks for your time. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Sorry, you're on night shift.
Somebody's got a question.
Oh,
Is that your phone? Oh, yes.
that's,
And happy to prank
you can leave it here.
I mean, sometimes I want to leave it someplace.
Right, exactly. All right. We're gonna move along. Thank you.
Do you
So-
have an agenda list? I'm sorry, I didn't have one.
Yes. Do we have agendas that are, do you have an extra?
Yes, right here.
Okay. Thanks.
Sorry, I didn't see it.
No, so we have a city presentation about our challenges with the Dairy Farmers of America.
Eric, can you put the AC down just a little bit?
I'm okay. All right, push. Okay, agenda items. All right,
Good evening, as you know, I'm Dominic Cloud, I'm the city manager. This is Ed Adrian, who's the city attorney. We're here tonight to ask you to issue a health order against Dairy Farmers of America. As the council's aware, the city's been dealing with the odors emanating from the plant for over a year now. In August of '25, the city issued a notice of intent to seek a health order DFA appealed the notice, and the council took testimony at the subsequent meetings in September, in October, and November. In November, the city proposed hiring a consulting firm with experience in mitigating offensive odors from industrial processes. The council agreed, and the consulting firm named Sanborn Head was hired to assess the source of the odors. The hearing was continued indefinitely pending the outcome of the study. The study was completed in January. The relevant findings of the report were that the main odorous gases from the facilities are methyl mercaptan and hydrogen sulfide. Methyl mercaptan smells like rotten cabbage, hydrogen sulfide smells like rotten eggs. The initial design either did not anticipate or underestimated the potential for odorous gas production. Sludge handling is a major source of the gases. Their measuring devices had a detection limit of 0.1 parts per million, while human olfactory systems can detect at 0.1 for hydrogen sulfide and 0.004 for methyl mercaptan. Consultants recommended solutions, including ongoing monitoring of air systems at the appropriate levels, system modifications to reduce air pressure, installation of an effective wet scrubber, and more frequent emptying of the sludge tanks. Since the report was completed, DFA has installed their previously ordered wet scrubber. The scrubber's been in place for at least a month. You can ask them when they come up. But complaints have not increased or decreased. Complaints have increased, not decreased. So since the report came in January, the attorneys for both sides have attempted to work out a settlement. We were optimistic that their cooperation in allowing the consultants in would produce a reasonable settlement. That expectation appears to have been misplaced. We were not able to reach a settlement. So we're now 10 months past the initial draft order. We've spent $47,000 for professional advice on how to abate the odors. DFA, as I'll tell you shortly, believes that while there are some odors, the odors can be managed and are reasonable and can be lived with. That doesn't help when we continue to get complaints of 4 or 5 a week that people can't stand living next to the plant. And the health order reflects that, our experience from those calls that come in. Those calls clearly say that the odors emanating from the plant impinge on the comfort and health of the residents. They emanate primarily from the sludge tanks and related waste processing equipment. Despite the modifications, facility operations, even their much championed scrubber, the odors continue. We think the odors constitute a health hazard as defined under Title 18. And the health order, pretty straightforward. It gives DFA within 30 days to cease operations contributing to the discharge of offensive, noxious, or foul odors, and submit within 30 days a written plan implementing the mitigation recommendations, order thresholds, and monitoring thresholds set forth in the Sanborn Head report. It adds some additional requirements, but the upshot of it is, let's implement the recommendations of the experts that we brought in to advise us on how to solve the problem. So we're asking you to order them to do so. As I mentioned in the memo, the next step, if you take that action, is it will likely shift the venue to Superior Court, and we will have a battle of the experts and a battle of what's the impact of the odors, and should the city residents be forced to live with it? Anything you would add, Ed?
Only that, we know how hard you work as a city council in order to make these determinations, and in Vermont, there's a lot of burden that are placed on the legislative bodies in order to make these determinations. But at this point, I think you've wrestled with this long enough, and it's probably time for the court to wrestle with it a bit more. They have the resources to deal with both the legal issues and the technical issues, which, while I'm sure that you would love to get into, it would take up too much time, quite frankly. So,
Questions from the council?
I probably have some questions, but I'd like to hear from you.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, DFA. And your reps, come on up. Hello again.
Hello.
If you could introduce yourselves.
My name is Peter Raymond. This is Hannah Slekis. I'm counsel for DFA in the center. Panos is the plant manager. Just to back up, it's been some time since we've been before you. This proceeding stems from the improvements to the facility related to wastewater processing that occurred a year and a half ago. As part of that process, as Mr. Cloud mentioned, there were odors anticipated. There's the actual odor results that were experienced were different than what was initially anticipated. Changes have been made, progressive changes over the past year and a half, and improvements to the odor mitigation at the creamery. In the fall, there were discussions. Both parties retained consultants. The creamery retained RHP to do an odor assessment and to really assess the public health impacts of the odors that were coming from the creamery. Subsequent to that, the city retained Sanborn. The kind of the key that came out of both those reports is that the measurable level of odors that was largely non-detect at the property line, and two, was nowhere close to what has been deemed a public health hazard from standards like OSHA and other health authorities. Sanborn's report largely echoed that. They were not able to detect a measurable odor at the property line. They also affirmed that these odor levels are not rising to what has been identified as causing public health standards. Sanborn made a number of recommendations as far as ways to mitigate what is really the issue coming down to what a human nose can detect. And as Mr. Cloud rightly pointed out, what a human nose can detect is much lower than what has been identified as a public health hazard or those standards, and what most commonly available monitoring equipment can identify. The 0.1 standard, that was what RHP used, and that was just the available data collection that was available to the creamery. Sanborn made a number of recommendations. Kind of the primary recommendation that it was the installation of a wet scrubber system, which the creamery had proactively ordered previously, but is now implemented. And Mr. Lekins and Panos can speak more to the actual specifics. In the city manager's report, I think this isn't a case where the recommendation of Sanborn have not been implemented. The vast majority of what Sanborn suggested to be done at this facility, the wet scrubber, negative pressure monitoring, or maintaining negative pressure, monitoring the air system, installing carbon filtration at when there's sludge loadouts, those have all been implemented. So the creamery has certainly invested hundreds of thousands of dollars recently as far towards this odor mitigation, and these steps are controlling odors, and there's been a mention of an increase in complaints. That is not, the creamery is aware of a handful over the past several weeks, but certainly not an increase as far as their experience. And ultimately, I think the dispute at this point comes down to what is the appropriate standard that the creamery is held to. There's the low level that a human nose can detect, which is also very subjective, versus a public health standard. And so there's a challenge here from the creamery's perspective, to bind the creamery to forever not having any detectable odor. It's just from an operational standpoint, it's very expensive, uncertain if it's feasible, and that's largely where the negotiations broke down. But I'll let Panos maybe speak a little bit about just kind of how operations, what's the wet scrubber system, other changes that the creamery has implemented.
No, Peter summarized very nicely. The wet scrubber was installed, it's operational right now. The carbon vessel that we have is still there as a secondary auxiliary item. Funds that Sanborn said on their report were installed also before even the report came out. So as we were reading the reports, like, yep, done that, there's nothing more to do. The biggest thing for me, without going to like extensive detail, unless there's any specific questions, is that what the Sunburn report did say that the wet scrubber is the best solution. They gave us numerous other solutions, but that was the most expensive one, and we just said we're going to do it. But before the wet scrubber was installed and after, we still have the same measurements that are perimeter. It hasn't changed the non-detectability of the odors at our perimeter. So I'm happy to answer any specific questions you may have in the interest of time, but I believe the Creamery has shown great commitment. We have not been given any data from the city manager of what he used as a baseline to consider that a health issue. And to Peter's comment also, I received some complaints from the city manager this week, but none before.
Questions from the council?
Okay, so you installed the wet scrubber. I'm just looking at Sanborn's recommendation. Says before DFA installs a wet scrubber, its design and installation should be evaluated to conform to anticipated performance. Integrating a new unit to existing systems so that thorough assessment may lead to operational risks, including inadequate extraction, air leakage, and improper application. The wet scrubber design should consider the following. It gives a number of things that should be considered by what I assume is a company like this. When you bought the wet scrubber, did you have an engineer professional go through and do this?
Yes,
take these steps?
The wet scrubber was specifically designed for this facility, and it was a double flow design. It was initially a single one, and we increased it to double.
Okay.
Again, we didn't have to, but out of abundance of caution, we just said, let's do that. When we say we bought, that's a great question, by the way. When we say we installed it, it's not somebody take off the shelf. It's a design specifically for this facility. It will not work in another facility as effective as it does here.
And it has not changed your numbers at all?
We cannot detect it still on the perimeter. Okay, do we see that there is no detectable odors of the exhaust at the point source? Yes, we do not see that either. So I guess my comment was that the effectiveness of the wet scrubber is kind of diminished because previously the system was also working as both the Sunburn report and our third party RSP came and they could not detect it on their data. And the Sunburn data, is we want to hold on to that one as a primary one and shows that on their results. The only time they detected it was when they were sitting next to the truck, which was basically exhausting, and they had the measuring device really next to the exhaust. And that's the only time they detected it. We actually asked them specifically to take another measurement about 10 feet away from the truck, and they were not able to detect that. One thing that I would say is that their measuring devices had both the handheld one, which we do have, and another device called the dragger tubes, which I'm not sure the Sunburn says that they're much more selective and much more sensitive to those, and they still do not detect it.
So when we met with you, we've met with you several times. I was not sitting in this seat then. We talked about, you had the scent boxes, they never detected any smell.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember having this conversation that you folks saying there's no detectable smell.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't until I read the Sanborn report that I realized, because this is not my specialty, that what I smell
Mm-hmm.
is, like, I smell at a more advanced level, I guess, we all do, than your scent boxes and your handheld devices. So even though they're not being detected at that level, it doesn't mean that the people that are calling us and driving by and living in that community they're not smelling something undesirable. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
I think Peter made it very much more eloquently, probably. Our position here is that we do not see that as crossing the line of a health crisis. It is a olfactory difference between people, and it can be measured, and I'm not sure a person driving by behind the sled strap, or a person driving by at 7 o'clock at night when there is no operations, let's say. Because there is sometimes where I get some reports where the plant is down, we don't have any operations, we don't have any discharge. Everything is just basically not there. So I agree with what you're saying, but I'm going with the statute of what is a health crisis basically, and what is a health order, and how do we prove that it is indeed a health crisis.
Right. And as a city council,
Yeah.
we also need to consider the people that live there.
Absolutely.
So that is, and we support farmers, obviously. We live in Franklin County. We also support the people that live down there, and it's more than just people driving by. It's people who want to have a barbecue outside, but it smells too bad, or they want to open their windows, and they can't do that. So that's the balance that we're trying to figure out.
I'm not getting any, unless I have not seen, except for one complaint in the last 2 weeks. All the other complaints are for people who either are passing by the area or they live quite far away.
Well, that's actually a good valid point. That's quite far away. My mind was bouncing back and forth about back in the day when they actually increased the smokestack lengths, heights on factories, because they want to get past the EPA regulation, like within 100 yards or 300 yards of a factory, we can't detect it. It's great. Let's send it further. Is it possible that these complaints, which you guys don't have people right next to your property, we know that they're across the road, they're further down the road. We're testing at the edge of these properties, but it's still totally possible, entirely possible, that they're picking up scents that are carrying by the wind away from your property, that they're picking up further down the road. They're picking up further away. I mean, I think
I'm
you
not
mentioned at one point.
I'm not an expert, but I think we will need to get people who know this better to answer that specific question. I can tell you that the smokestack is, not the smokestack, sorry, the exhaust is above the wet scrubber right now, so it's even higher than it was before. Again, I mean, one of the complaints that I remember, not recent, but quite a few months ago, it was by the hospital. The person by the hospital smelled something, and I was like, okay, so with the wind blowing the other direction, okay, so what does that mean? So I feel that, again, I'm going by the statute of what is the Vermont statute for health order, and I understand your comment. But that's the data that I have, and I can't justify it in my head.
Well, there's also a school nearby, Little League fields. Wednesdays, it's called Walking Wednesday for the school. Lots of school children walking by and having hold their nose as they go by. It might not be killing them, but it's still a health issue. It's still a quality of life issue. It's still I'm not walking past there. I'm going to go down the road further away. Maybe less traffic.
I'm assuming you're asking, I guess nobody has told me that there was an issue like that.
Okay.
I would just state that, the EQ tank or the equalization tank is literally by the road.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, that's the Aldis road that we have.
Yeah.
So the same way as you would cross into a different area with a specific smell, if you're very close to the equalization tank, you probably will pick up something, absolutely. If you're crossing by when there is a track, which we strive not to have that during the school times, and we see the kids also walking. I understand your comment, and by I don't mean that, the health order should be killing a person, but there is levels that the Sanborn actually report has on their table that in my mind would qualify as a health order, but we don't reach those.
Yeah, hey, Panos, can I jump in? This is Jill Lombard. I'm in-house counsel for the Creamery and Dairy Farmers of America. I'm quite shocked to hear the commentary about, are you guys still in school and that there have been recent complaints like that? We are not receiving those. I work very closely with this team, and anytime there is a report that comes through the city, that is vetted through me. And so this idea that these are still actively happening, I don't know where the breakdown is, but we're not getting that information. And at the end of the day, you guys are being asked to make a decision on something that has a legal standard, and the legal standard is not met. And so I don't, as far as the discomfort in the city, I do feel for the people who live there, whatever is causing that, but we can't dispute the facts. We can't dispute the data. And the data from both our consultant and the city's consultant does not show that there are measurable levels of H2S or methyl mercaptan at the facility's property line that exceed published public health standards. At the end of the day, again, I'm just, one of the lawyers involved in this, and I appreciate that I don't live there, and so I don't have the ability to observe it for myself, but I've been messing with this for 2 years too. Again, every single complaint, every single call, we've been highly engaged. The dairy farmers, every penny that has been spent to work on this matter, that comes directly out of the pockets of our dairy farmers, the people in the area who show up every day to try to find a market for their milk, who belong to our cooperative. And in my view, the Creamery and DFA has done a tremendous amount of work and has made significant improvements. And one question I continue to have as we work through this is the Creamery the only culprit that the city is looking at? Like, if the data doesn't show that it's the Creamery, what else is the city doing to evaluate what's going on in town?
Can I ask you a question? So, I guess where we kind of jumped in was when you guys built a new treatment facility is when the quality of life in the neighborhood changed due to an odor that pretty likely is coming from a water treatment plant. And we can't get that odor to stop. And we're still getting complaints even after the new system. Are you kind of at the point of the city where like there's nothing else that we can do? And if we're gonna have this plant here because we have this new facility, the neighbors are just gonna have to deal with it for the rest of their lives?
No, but we're not getting that information. If you guys are still getting regular complaints, there's an absolute breakdown of communication. We have diligently investigated every single time we get a complaint. We look to see what's going on at the facility. And there are times when there isn't anything going on and the monitors don't pick anything up. So, I know one of the last things the city said was, maybe we're going to have to get our own monitoring device. I think that's a great idea. I strongly encourage that. We did that a long time ago, right? So, again, I appreciate that I don't live there, but we have, people who are in the room, who work there, who have the human senses too. And so it's frustrating to hear that there's still so much activity around it, or that it's happening, but are you telling me like in the last month, this has been a very active, it smells bad in town? Just one example, maybe last 2 months. I know that there was activity last week on reported odors, but aside from some of these, in my view, acute instances, if the odors are there and people are complaining, that's not funneling back.
Okay. Well, I will tell you that people are complaining. The complaints have increased since the scrubbers have been put in. Excuse me?
Do we have a number?
Number,
How
I mean,
much
we can get the
they
numbers to you. And I think, like, just from my perspective, it's frustrating to hear that you didn't know, like, about the complaints, because we've been meeting with you for a really long time, and if there were no more complaints, we wouldn't be meeting with you.
Well, hold on. Just to correct the record, I didn't say that I haven't known about any complaint. What I'm hearing tonight is different than the complaints that are coming in. I mean, I've been part of all of these meetings too. I've been in the background of all of these meetings. So this isn't, I'm not suggesting in any way that I have not been privy to the complaints that are shared. I think everyone in this meeting knows there were many complaints we did not receive. So what I'm trying to understand is there more that is, again, not getting to us?
Dom, do you want to respond to that? Or our counsel?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think this underscores the point that I made before. I've never met counsel for DFA. I deal with the local counselor, Mr. Raymond. But the fact of the matter is, there's a dispute, okay? And this is the first stage of trying to reconcile the dispute. We tried to do it amicably. I think everybody put in a good effort, but we couldn't reach a meeting of the minds. It happens all the time. And so we're asking you to check the box so we can go to court and we can let the attorney from DFA can present as much evidence as she'd like. And we'll present as much evidence as we like too, and we can spend days doing that. And we can call witnesses and we can bring all the complaints forward, because I've been hearing about this from Dom for months. And if the DFA management isn't hearing about it, we dispute things that they say, but I don't want to get in a back and forth match here before you, because I know you don't want to hear it, okay? That's just the way it goes. You're a citizen board, you don't want to hear adjudications. I get it, because it is people fighting with each other, and only attorneys like that. So, the fact of the matter is this. We're asking you to trust the people of St. Albans, okay? And go the next step. This isn't a final determination. There's still 2 more steps if they want. We go to court up the hill, and then we go to the Supreme Court if somebody wants, the Vermont Supreme Court if somebody wants to. But this kind of back and forth isn't going to help anybody solve anything.
Tim, I know that I wanted to make sure I give you a chance. You had some questions.
I just want to make sure I had your argument right, Mr. Raymond. Is that you? Mr. Raymond?
That's me.
So you're saying that you emit an odor, and you've conceded that, and that the odor doesn't rise to the level where it's injurious to any of the citizens. So and that's what we're looking for, a health safety order. You said there's no reason for that because we haven't demonstrated anything that would injure or be harmful to the health of one of the citizens. Is that pretty much what you're saying?
Let me make sure I'm clear. The Creamery doesn't dispute that at times in the past there were odors after the wastewater system was installed. Whether there were odors before that or not, I don't know. The point that I was making is, as soon as those were identified, the Creamery started taking steps. They increased the size of the carbon filtration. They changed the way that the chemical additives. They changed the way sludge loading was handled. They changed the way mixing was done. And there's various tanks. And this is all part of the process to break down the high organic materials that are coming out of the milk processing plant. And the breakdown produces odor, so they've got to deal with it. And so my point is that where we were in the fall, the Creamery had invested heavily and made dramatic improvements or significant improvements. And at that point, the Creamery disputes that there was any reason to take further action. There was no, we weren't detecting odors with the devices that we had. And nevertheless, the Creamery invested in this wet scrubber system, which is also the recommendation of Sanborn. And that has now been installed. That continues to be, it's only been operational for a month. It continues to be tweaked. The Creamery continues to take these issues seriously and continues to assess, but there's no, at this point, the Creamery's data is not that there continues to be odors. There have been a handful of complaints at the Creamery that I'm aware of. They're so non-specific that it's hard to say that they're tied to the creamery has looked and said, can we identify any event that occurred at that time? You know, was that a sludge loadout? Was there a mechanical breakdown? Because that would explain, you know, if the power shut off and someone complained about an odor, that would make sense. They weren't able to. So at this point in time, we're not saying that we're emitting odors. What the creamery's position is that we're still at a threshold, to the extent there are any odors, we're still at a threshold that is well below what the public health standards have been for H2S and methane capture. There's both standards for industrial workplaces and also for just general public, and those are many levels above anything that's been detected here. So that's
So anything that you've omitted hasn't risen to the level of the public health ordinance. So if I live near a pizza joint and I smell pizza because I live near a pizza joint, then that doesn't rise to the level of the health ordinance. If I live near a farm and I smell cow manure, that doesn't rise to the level of the health ordinance. Okay, so if I live near a gas station or anything, I can go down the line, okay? But what about, there's something different with what they smell around your place, and you don't like the word public safety health order. What would you think about the word nuisance?
We're tying the public health order to the statute. Title 18, which is referenced in the public health order, specifically references that statutory provision which defines a public health hazard, which is what this order's been based on.
And so my question was, if it didn't say public health ordinance and it said you're a nuisance to the landowners that are down there, is that more palatable to you?
Well, I think that question is actually before the environmental court currently. As you know, there was a matter before the DRB. And that is more, that issue of what is an unreasonable interference with neighboring property owners. Some might say that's also a nuisance. You know, those are very similar concepts. That is the issue that is currently before the court. You know, and I agree with Attorney Adrian. We were working on a settlement, and we reached a point where we couldn't agree, and so here we are. But I don't think that the city council's purview extends to a nuisance. That was the issue before the DRB. I think what's before the city council is what's defined in the statute as a public health.
Yeah, just to put a bow on it, I guess. Like, for us, it's not about the semantics, it's about the legal standard, right? And from our perspective, we aren't creating a public health hazard. If we want to talk about the nuisance standard, that it's just a different standard codified in a different place. And as Peter said, we're dealing with that too. And again, and something else I just want to say, before the night is over, is DFA has made significant investments to be a good citizen in the St. Albans community. And so we are very disappointed to be in this place with the city too. I am disappointed to hear about, how constant the complaints are, and to know that that's been continued, and that we're not aware of that. We have expended significant resources. We've made so many changes. The amount of internal resources and time on this are meaningful. And so this is not where we want to be. We don't want to be in a situation where we're creating a nuisance, take public health hazard out of it. We don't want to create a nuisance that's in violation of the law in any town that we operate in, including St. Albans. And I think
all I'd like to know, Ms. Lombard.
Yes.
And Mr. Raymond is there a smell? According to you, this is like did Biden win the election? I feel like you guys are sitting there saying there's no smell, there's no smell, there's no smell, but whatever we admit, it doesn't rise to the level of public safety. I don't care if it does or not. Is there a smell? Is there a smell? Hold on. Is there a smell that other people around there can smell? Like a pizza place or a farm. Is there a smell? That's all I want you to say, yes or no. Are you saying there's no smell or there is a smell?
Have there been instances where there's been odors that are detectable by a human nose? Yes, I wouldn't dispute that.
Okay.
But are they ongoing and are they constant? Certainly not.
And would you expect people, like we would expect people around a pizza joint or a farm or anything like that, would you expect people, since they're around that type of operation, to live with that type of smell?
Well,
Whether it's routine or once in a while or daily?
I mean, I think, your question's a good one, and I think it's all, context and severity. So where the creamery is located, this has, been a plant, an industrial area for 100+ years. And if we're getting, and odors that are, this is not, again, it's not a constant, there's, as Panos can testify, and he's probably the one to speak to this more because he's there daily, they're walking the perimeter constantly. And vast majority of the time, all the time that they're out there, they're not detecting it. So these are, if people are smelling something, and again, we don't want, this isn't about, whoever was wrong. But if these are acute instances that are infrequent, and it's a human nose, that's a much different standard than, is this a public health hazard?
And people should be willing to endure that if they're gonna live next to the complex, right?
I think, if I may, I think that if you and I walk down the street and you smell something and I don't, is it a net zero or is it 1-0?
Or are you nose blind because you're there all the time?
I think
Maybe I worked on the pizza place all my life and I can't smell the pizza anymore, which is dreadful to be honest, but I can't live like that.
So I think what I've heard is there is something going on.
7,000 people, according to the 2020 census, in St. Albans. I had 3 complaints last week that was transferred to me. If I missed one, let's call it 4. Two of the complaints were people who came to the area and they were substantially away from the site. If we're saying that the only odor generating item or place is the creamery, then we should be getting a lot more complaints than before.
Do you know where Brainerd Street is in St. Albans City? Brainerd, you know where Brainerd Street is in St. Albans City?
No.
It's right up here by the shopping center.
Mm-hmm.
There's a bank there.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know that I've never smelled anything from the creamery? I've never smelled it. I did smell something once when I drove by the creamery, but I've never smelled it. But am I lucky just because I don't live near you? But the people who do live near you, since they're living near you, they've got to.
Well, the complaint
From
that
what I hear you say, Mr. Raymond, is yes.
The complaint that I received was even further than that. So I don't know if you were lucky. I can't answer that. But what we are now saying is, and I think both Peter and Jill have said, we're here for a health order, right? And that's why we're going to debate the health order. I understand what you're saying, and I think we have agreed that, for example, if there was a power outage a few weeks ago, okay, everything got shut down. It wasn't us, it was, from outside. At that point, we had to shut down and we had to control everything we could. Was there going to be odors on during that time? Probably. Did we get a complaint? No. So I'm not sure how to answer your question because we're moving away from the health order standards to what you're saying.
I know where, and
I appreciate you agreeing with that.
It may not seem that way. I'm kind of in agreement with you. All right, a little bit. But I have an obligation to her ward and her ward
Absolutely.
too. Even though my ward doesn't smell it. And I've smelled it driving by, and I just don't know if that's a happenstance or not. I don't know if it rises to a health level. It doesn't appear to be to me yet. I haven't been convinced of it yet, but I could be. But but I just needed someone to say, we know there's odors coming out of here.
I think there's consensus that it stinks. These guys think, yeah, it smells, but it's not unhealthy.
I think we're moving away again from that.
We think that odors are a legitimate application of the Title 18 standard, and we're going to go to court and see who's right.
And what baseline data can you share with us that you have used?
We will do what you refused. You said you want to get every call, right? But we asked you to set up a hotline, and you said you didn't have the resources to do it. So we had to be the ones who received the calls.
Okay.
And we said, we want you to measure at what the consultants recommend, and you said, no, that we're not going to measure at that because that's a smell standard, not a health standard. Well, we're going to measure at the smell standard.
Which is a health order.
I agree. I acknowledge that difference. In our
I agree with
perspective on
Attorney Adrian. We're getting into the
Yeah.
we're getting
All
into
right.
the weeds here, and this is stuff for someone other than us to hear. But
Does anyone else on the council have any final questions for these folks? And then, patient audience, it's your turn if you have any comments. Anyone else? Anyone here from the public want to join in the fun? Marty?
Yeah, I'd make a couple comments. I
All
think
right.
Probably the general public down in that area have reached a point where they're sick of calling because they haven't gotten any results, or so they feel they haven't gotten any. So I think that probably has something to do with it. I go by the co-op numerous times a day and smell it numerous times. I don't report it every time I do it because it's just at this point I'm going by and everything. If in Pano's defense to say maybe he doesn't smell it, I worked at a cheese plant for 9 years. I drove my car home, my girlfriend wouldn't get in it. Something worked because she married me, but it didn't smell to me, but it did to her. So I think probably people around there may be getting immune to it as well. So, food for thought.
Does the rest of your crew also smell it when they go by? Because I know you're on that street a lot.
My grandkids, we drive by there every day for school, and they take turns deciding who's stinky that day.
Is that over you? Anyone else in the audience in a comment? Questions? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Trudy, someone's going to make a motion here pretty soon, and we should discuss it for a couple more minutes. I'd like to discuss it amongst us, with the public here, not you, just to give what our feelings are. And before you vote, just not go to a quick discussion, just go to a quick vote.
So this will be a council discussion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The public's already had their chance. Both the parties have had their chance. Now, I'd like us to discuss it and then make a decision whether or not we think this is something that we need to move on.
Yep.
So I'm going to make the motion, just to get things going, that the council approve the city's request to issue a health order against the Dairy Farmers of America. Making that motion just to get it going.
Okay, thank you, Tim. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Liz, any discussion?
And it's a tough one, right? Because like you said, it's not gonna kill anybody, but I wouldn't wanna live there. And then people lived there first, before the city was there. So they didn't make a conscious effort to move next to someplace that stinks like death sometimes. But like again, it's not gonna kill anybody, so, but is this our only legal recourse?
I have,
Proceed with the health order, sorry.
I have two thoughts. I was trying to find in this, but didn't the company that we hired to go in, didn't they detect levels because they used a more sensitive sensor? And it just, I'm wondering why DFA is not using the same sensitivity of sensor to see if the wet scrubber has actually made a difference. But that's probably neither here nor there at this point. It just feels like something that could be proven that what they've done has made a difference if they use the same technology that the company that we hired did. And then my other thought is, I just keep thinking back, and a couple of you guys weren't on the council yet, but I keep thinking back to last year when we had the folks from Bethel Court come in, and like my heart just ached for them. And they just talked about how they thought someone died nearby. And maybe things are not going to be as bad this summer as they were last summer, but it's hard to have folks so frustrated and us not do something. That's all.
And that was before they installed what they recently installed, that meeting.
Yeah.
And some of the findings in the report stated that it was during winter, during colder times, and not during hot times. So it does feel like before the summer, you know, we could say things have gotten better, but once summer hits and it is hotter and some of the gases potentially emit more, it could be even more harmful. And what the health order states is that according to the Vermont Statute 18, that it could have interference with normal use of property. If people can't go outside and have a barbecue, that is an interference of
That's
normal use of property.
absolutely what people were complaining about last year.
And barbecue season's gonna start soon. Kids are still in school, but not much longer.
So with that statement, it does fall under the health ordinance, then, right?
Right here, yeah.
I mean, like the point that was made, the plant's been here for a long time, but that's fine. People chose to live near because it wasn't an issue. It wasn't something they had to put up with. But with changes, with the expansion, with additional farms coming into the plant, with the addition of a waste treatment plant, this has obviously become a nuisance. And yes, the health order, they get that with their point they're making about being a health order. And as you pointed out, it does fall within that bound for us. I wonder too, is like what level of nuisance component could there be in an order that says, like, you know, it's not just.
That's not what this is. That's it. It's a health order. It's not a nuisance.
You know, I think we also have to consider too that what if that standard, the smell standard, isn't attainable? Just like you're always going to smell the pizza.
What do we do? Tell the co-op to say see you later?
That's why I'm asking the question.
You're asking, are we trying to potentially go to a
No,
level
I think-
that's unattainable?
Maybe, I don't know.
Can I, were there other suggestions in Sanborn's report that have not been tried, Don? Is there,
Ed, correct me if I'm wrong, but the center of, and what barred us from settlement was the obligation to measure at,
what the nose could smell?
yeah.
To measure or detect?
I think.
Well, the threshold of the dispute was Sanborn said you should measure here. Co-op said this is good enough.
But Sanborn wanted to measure where the human nose is
Yeah.
more likely to detect.
Yeah.
With the understanding that the levels could be brought down to that amount?
I don't think it was even that specific.
Okay.
It was just
And there-
measuring at this level.
There was a dispute over the, whether the scrubber that they installed would be effective or not.
I mean, I don't want to get too much into the weeds, but essentially, the city wanted some reassurances, you know, wanted to have a plan B if this didn't work, and that's where things kind of, one of the things that things fell apart on. I do want to mention too that, you know, if this does go to court, if they start from the beginning again, it's called de novo, they start anew, basically, so, you know, I appreciate the fact that there's these competing legal theories, but we think that if it impacts the public health, safety, or welfare, and you know, not being able to open your window, saying you smell dead people, not being able to barbecue, not being able to get fresh air, that is part of that rubric of health, safety, and welfare. So again, reasonable minds can differ. That's what the courts are for.
I'll just say I don't agree with that because no one's telling them they can't barbecue. No one's telling them they can't walk down the street. they're the people who are choosing not to do it. So this isn't violating any of those rights. So yeah, it's a question of semantics, but anyway, that's it.
interfere.
Well, I don't know. Yeah, well, if it's raining out, does it interfere with my ability to barbecue? If that's the case, then what am I going to say about the weather? You know, there's a lot of things, but I'm just not convinced that this is where we need to be. Although I know we need to get somewhere pretty quick.
Because
and I wish we could fashion something that says we haven't given it enough time, and
what's the it?
We're going to take a look. Yeah, we're going to take a look at something, or give you a chance to do something. And if it hasn't happened to the satisfaction of the city manager, I'm just throwing this out. On July 1st, we're filing the public safety health order.
Right, but what's going to be that measure? Because
I don't know what it is. I'm just throwing it out.
Right, but from hearing from them, they don't even seem to think that it's that big of an issue.
I think what I heard them say is we haven't given, the complaints are down. We haven't given it enough time to show that the system works, and having something that happens infrequently is a lot different than something that was happening continuously, which was happening before the meeting that Lindsay was talking about earlier. That's what I think I heard.
I also, to Marty's point, you eventually stop calling and complaining because it just becomes like something that you have to deal with. It might be like the loud truck down the road for me that I call and call and call and then nothing happens and I'm like, why am I gonna call anymore? So I also I wanna caution us not to just assume that it's the same or better because people aren't calling, because I just think they might be sick of calling.
What's your suggestion, Tim?
I'm not, I just want us to have this discussion, just so we can have it, because if we say yes, we're on the way to the courthouse. If we say there's something else that some of us have thought of, that we think we ought to delay this a little more, because we haven't gone through a second summer or summer with the new stuff they put in. Is 1 or 2, 3 complaints a month livable or agreeable to us? I don't know. I'm just not seeing where I'm saying I have to wear an oxygen mask to go down Federal Street. And by the way, I go across Federal Street maybe 10 times a day. So, I mean, if we're going to decide that we're going to agree with the city manager, or is anyone else thinking something else?
It's hard because they're saying there hasn't been enough time with the wet scrubbers. But then on the other hand, what if it's still just as bad and people just aren't calling? But the other thing is, if they're saying they've done everything that they're suggested to do, then what's the health order going to do? If they've done everything. But is that true? Are there other things?
Just for clarification, I know we've closed public comment, but could you just tell us, Panos, what was the date of the last modification you made to the plant to remedy the situation? What was the date of that?
I can give you the exact date in a different time, but it's about a month and a half ago.
So it's been 45 days.
About.
Okay.
Can I read you the text threads again? The quandary for me is I don't know what to tell these people when they call me. I can't tell them. Suck it up. Sucks to be you.
How about we're in effective communications with the creamery to resolve the issue?
I told them that for the last 10 months. A lot of it centers around the senior housing complex across the street. I think it goes right up over the property line and lands right there. And those are the guys who text me over the weekend. And I forwarded these to Panos. Had to close my windows at 9:45. Pretty sad when you have to sit on your couch with a can of Lysol to help with the smell. Should I log the times also? Yes. Take a ride down here. Smell is extremely terrible right now. June 3rd, 11 a.m. Left house. Just got back to have lunch at 1:14. Still stinks just as bad. 75 degrees, beautiful day, gotta shut the windows. This thing was an all-day smell. It's now 8 and it might finally be done. This is crazy.
If it were as bad as, and I'm not, perception is something, but if it were as bad as the way you're portraying it now, why aren't there 40 complaints going down? There's people that live right across the street from this place. And we haven't heard a word from them. Getting onto the bandwagon,
I don't know, I'm just, because we took the signs down, we took the billboard down, we were trying to take the temperature down, it didn't work.
so we're just sick of it, so now we'll just sign the order and we'll battle it out in court.
Or you table it, and we're gonna have this conversation in 30 days.
Do we table it and get more sample sites off-site going?
We've
Some of these
said
areas
this
where
at any
it's-
time. Court will probably order mediation. If it clears up and they're right, and but Panos and I had an exchange last week, and I forwarded the emails to him. I said, I assume the scrubber's still being adjusted. He said, no, scrubber's good. And there's no recognition in our system of the times when your odor complaints came in. So,
And there were no problems prior to DFA acquiring that space and treating the milk there.
The acquisition went great. It was the pre-treatment of the waste.
And this is new to that space that didn't used to happen there.
Yeah, and they've spent hundreds of thousands of dollars trying to fix it. And they've, I think, arguing that that's reasonable. They've done more than enough. They're not going to measure anything additionally to hang themselves in court.
And the tricky thing for me is that we represent all the people of the city. And even if one person was struggling with the odors from there, I would be concerned. Not because it might impact their physical health, but their ability to comfortably use their property. And I know that's subjective, but if it smells so bad that someone can't go out and have a barbecue, or doesn't want to go out and have a barbecue because of the smell, I feel like that's unfair.
That's like saying if we put a police officer at every intersection in the city of St. Albans, and stoplights at every intersection in the city of St. Albans, then there'll never be any accidents. Well, that's unsustainable. You can't do that. You perform a triage and you say, and you list stuff in the order of importance. And so that's why I'm going to.
So what would you say to the
Shannon,
folks,
your
the
business
folks
is
down
down
there?
there. Your business is down there. Have you experienced that smell at your business?
Not at my business, but when I drive by there, yes. When I go there, down there every morning to drop my grandkids off at school, yes.
It's very localized.
It's very localized. I don't smell it up like on the other end of Federal.
And that's a difference between when we first came in. It was more citywide.
Yeah, it's just nice to be
Smelling it
235
up
in
more
here. Yeah.
and back at City Hall. They've shrunk the footprint.
Okay, well, that's one plus.
And they shrink it more.
I mean, is it going to affect the property values of these people? Like, so say I'm like, I don't want to smell this anymore, I'm going to sell my house, am I going to be able to sell my house when I'm going to show my house and it smells like it does? You know what I mean? So like that is going to have long-lasting effects on these people that live.
What if I'm selling my house and a few noisy motorcycles go by? And people are going to say, does this happen all the time? Well, we just talked to the police officers at the last meeting. I don't know.
Yeah.
So I can say anything that you come up with, I can say something.
No, I don't.
It's because he's a lawyer.
I think
Those
the
lawyers, the difference is that the motorcycles aren't there all the time.
I think the difference is that people have lived next to this plant for years, decades, whatever. And the plant made a change that affects their quality of life. The only thing I'm not convinced about is, and I'm not convinced that we haven't hit a point where it's going to get as good as it's going to get. And then we're taking action against a business that we care about, and that might not ever get better. These people for the rest of their lives might have to live with this or sell their homes.
But how do we get to, we know it can never get better if we're not still working through the challenges?
We listen to our experts.
This is the discussion I wanted to have
The
before we made our decision.
Sorry, the Sanborn Head experts did have concerns about the configuration of the scrubber. I mean, that's a dispute. I don't want to get into like the details of it here because I think it would take some.
There was a disagreement on how it was being used or whatever.
What the parameters were set at, whether it was big enough, whether it was the right scrubber. They had already ordered it, is my understanding, and they put it in. So, they said it's going to work. And so we said, okay, and it hasn't evidently worked, at least not as well as our experts are telling us if it was the appropriate scrubber, it should have worked.
I mean, there's more.
Respond to that briefly, Dennis.
Yeah, we have provided all the engineers the schematics, data sets, everything like that. What Mr. Adrian is saying was not ever said to us. We actually doubled up, as I said, the exhaust. So Sanborn did not show us any major or any, actually to my knowledge, issues with the wet scrubber as it is designed.
Besides the monitoring, where the city and you guys disagreed on the level of monitoring, are there any of these infrastructure projects or processes that you aren't doing or you refuse to change?
About 95 to 96%, I guess, of all the recommendations that you see have been implemented before we actually received the report. There is, we were very close to, as I understand, we were very close to an agreement, but on the last moment they brought back certain other items, which we said at that point we feel that that's beyond what is needed, and that we have done everything now. Even the headspace monitoring, we agreed to do that, so we ordered those items. I don't see much more infrastructure, I guess, that Sanborn has given that we have not implemented already.
If I may, there was part of, so there were two issues, I think, was the monitoring, the level of monitoring, and the part of this just goes to a feasibility and a practicality of the cost expense for incremental benefit, as Panos said, like we can keep throwing money at this, but again, if we're achieving the standard. One issue was with sludge loadouts. Is it 24 hours versus doing currently? And as Sanborn noted, that's when they suspected odors are more likely because that's when it's coming out of the truck. So carbon filtration has been installed, but there was a dispute about how frequently you should do that.
The other thing two things that I want to clarify. Number one, there was a comment about the measuring device that we use. That's exactly the same as the Sanborn ones. That's how we're giving you comparative data, I guess. And the other thing I just want to clarify, the truck that comes in to take the sludge is not a wash truck. They don't wash the truck. They may have other things in there that they have taken out before. So that exhaust will push the headspace out of the truck. It goes through a carbon barrel and a sand box. And that was a suggestion by Marty Harris, which we implemented also. That was not in the Sanborn report.
Thank you. So is your position that there's nothing else that you can do to mitigate the smell for the people that live there?
No, my position is that we don't think this raises to a health board.
but it doesn't mean it doesn't stink.
Right, but like, our hands are kind of tied because like, we just want to fix the issue for the people that live there. And so, are you saying that there's more that could be done?
I'm struggling a little bit. What the city manager just read, he absolutely sent it to me on, I think it was a Monday or a Tuesday, okay? But before that, I had not received anything. So at that point, I'm struggling to see if indeed the complaints have increased since the installation. So if I am going to, and I'm going to use maybe a little bit paraphrase the words of the council now, if I'm going to have a solution, I need something to quantify it. I don't have a quantifiable item right now for me to target a solution. What I do have is the sample measurements, the RHP report. I have our measurements every time we have a complaint in a timely fashion. And if I can't quantify that, I understand what the people are saying, but I can't act on something that I cannot detect.
And in putting in more sensitive monitors is not something that you're willing to do.
We have the monitors already installed for continuous monitoring. I'm not sure if the monitors that are given, because the engineers have not told me anything, are going to be for the specific use with high moisture and high temperatures. So I'm not sure those monitors are going to actually detect what they're supposed to detect in the environment that they're being put in. And again, if I am to, stay in the health order, it is at the property line that we are measuring.
Don, do you believe that there are those monitors out there that can?
I gave him a list of 8.
So I guess I'll give you my opinion. My opinion is I think that the neighborhoods are affecting. It does fall under a health order. They didn't move next to a farm. They had a treatment plant built next to them that stinks and changes their routines and behaviors. My only concern is, are we gonna make the co-op spend a bunch of money and we're gonna spend a bunch of money, and at the end of the day, this is a sludge removal plant and there's nothing that can be done.
I've heard that there's been, from the attorney, I forget her name again, I don't know if she's still on, but there's some information that she said that she didn't have or she wasn't given. And Panda stated that he received some information late. In lieu of the motion that I stated earlier, if we did something like, can we give everybody 5 days or 10 days to say, this is the information I want, this is the information that you need, here it is, and that 3 of us, and I'd like to be on that committee, 3 of us meet with the city manager and the general manager and the plant manager and see where we are. And if we're nowhere at the next council meeting, the committee will then give its decision to the full council, and at that point in time, the full council can decide whether or not they want it. We're talking giving them 5 to 10 days, and then 10 days later, we have another council meeting.
So the information that they're seeking is, the city agreed that we would inform the co-op when we get complaints, but the complaints come in all over the place, Counselor's husband is driving by and says, boy, it stinks. And then that comes in, and I capture that. It's the ones I read you. If you want to get more data, then we have to ramp up. We got to put the sign back up
I was
there.
gonna say, like, people aren't calling.
But but that could be done in the next 10 days.
So we can't go back. If you want more data, we can ramp it up again
And I mean, if, I have been hearing a lot about, well, we didn't get this and we didn't get that, but like if you had set up your own hotline, then you would have had access to all of it because you were, the DFA was the party trying to solve the problem, but that didn't happen.
The only thing I don't agree with that is, and listen, I do agree with you, Tim, that, we're already leached Pandora's box, but we know it stinks. We know it stinks. It's stunk for 10 months or whatever you said. Neighbors are still complaining. I just don't.
I do appreciate making sure that if we do put this order out, that everyone has the information that they asked for. I think then we'd be going into it fully prepared.
I don't know what we do different in 10 days.
I don't know what information you're looking for.
Panos wants to report that on Sunday morning at 7 a.m., John Smith at 46 Federal Street called me and said he smelled this odor. And so then I can say to Panos, it came in between 7:45 and 8 a.m. And then he can look at his plant and say, yep, that's what caused it. But it doesn't come like that to me. And I've got a couple of other things going on.
Yeah.
I think that is one valid point, but also receiving the complaint 3 days later after it was launched is also not helping us.
So
I can go back and see that. However, maybe I can tell you, what data do you need?
This feels like a little bit like my 3rd grade classroom, I'm not gonna lie, like for real. And I feel like this is where I would be like, you need to go talk to the principal because this is about my.
I appreciate you calling me young, I really do.
You got it, Panos.
I think that's what we're kind of doing.
Right,
If we do
so-
this, is we're saying you guys, the city and DFA have to talk to the principal, but.
So we have a motion and we have a second. We have a discussion.
The discussion was, should we change the motion a little bit to what
give 10
Chad
days.
said, kick the can down the road to the next meeting, or do we just go with what the motion is?
Right, so do you want to hear from people?
Yeah, I wanted to just know if doing something like that,
Is
and
helpful.
everyone's had their last chance, and we've said, okay, we've gone as far as we can as the council, and then I'm feeling good about signing the health order.
But with those 10 days would give us time for.
We put the sign back up, we get more detail about when and what time.
Do you tell the neighborhood you think nothing's gonna happen, so you don't call, start calling again? Like, is that what we're also
Well, it was
asking
like
people?
what Tally said to us. We gotta have someone call us up and tell us when these things are happening so that we can be there at that time.
Right,
And Dominic's saying, I can't do that.
Right, and I work at the school, so I go past every day and I'm like, oh, stinky again, but I don't call because what's the point? The signs are down, maybe we're working on it, like, as in just a person going past every single day, and my children walk past there.
So what do you have a thought? Do you want to vote on the health order, or do you think you want to?
I guess I just need to know if we're gonna kick it down to next meeting, will something actually happen?
What are we gonna accomplish?
Just gonna get more data.
Other than it smells.
And
I'm saying
what we already
stinks.
know.
I'm saying
Can
it
we,
doesn't stink.
can I make a Google form that Panos gets the results of every time someone puts information in, and all the council members have access to it, including Dom?
It's on the website already.
We asked for that, by the way.
I don't think.
I think that's a fantastic idea.
I'm gonna take a break.
Okay. Eric.
I voted 3 times. It's down there.
Okay, you're ready to pull the trigger. Okay, Eric, just a quick, your thoughts.
At this point, I don't see what 30 days is really going to change. I think, like they said, the experts need to talk about this and they need to bring it to the principal. So in my opinion, I'd say pull the trigger.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think, unless there's something tangible that's gonna happen in those next 30 days, and nobody can really even agree, like, what needs to happen, right? Like, so I think it's out of our hands at this point that it has to go someplace bigger. And it's
Chad, you're ready to go, and what about you?
Yeah, I mean, I think we gotta vote one way or the other.
Yeah.
I mean, the neighbors called.
Yeah, and I think this, for me, that this is beyond what I can tease out as the mayor and a member of this council. Like, this is, like I said, I teach 3rd grade. You know, this is
I move the motion.
okay. So, all in favor of filing the health ordinance, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, it's filed. All right. Sarah, thank you. You're welcome. I'm gonna talk really fast. Thank you. All right. Hey, Sarah.
All right, well, good evening, everyone.
Hi.
Hi. Oh, and you're not gonna stay?
No, I'm gonna go talk to Doug.
All right, well, I'm here this evening to talk to you about the city's FY27 enterprise fund budgets. In your packets, just to let you know what you have my detailed memo overviewing what is happening in the upcoming year, a summary rate sheet, and then I always like to summarize these funds by major category. I do that on page 5 for all funds together, so you can see high level what's happening in our business type activities, and then a summary for just water, summary for just wastewater, summary for just stormwater, surprise, and then the detailed budgets for all 3. I'd like to talk about what we think is happening in FY27. So as I mentioned, these are our 3 enterprise funds. You may also see them referred to as our business type activities in the financial statements. And these are the areas in which the city is operating more as a business. Specifically, these funds are required to cover their costs, including debt and capital, with user fees, as opposed to general tax revenues in the general fund. Overall, the combined cost increase across all 3 of the funds is 3.7%, which is in line with recent inflationary trends and well below the April spike of 4.4. Our goal is always to have steady, predictable growth over time and not big spikes and jumping rates all over the place. These budgets accomplish this with a moderate, predictable increase tied directly to maintaining service levels and supporting our infrastructure needs. For our average city customer, we're looking at about $36 per quarter, $12 a month. The average city customer uses about 25,000 gallons in a 90-day period. And then for our lower users using 10,000 gallons over that same period, the increase is $23 a quarter or $8 a month. Some of the key forces driving the budget, we are continuing to see growth in the system. We added 40 new equivalent units in water and sewer over the last year, but at the same time, we've noticed our usage on the water side declining. Both water usage and sewer usage are billed on water inflow through the meter. Because our usage rate, so we have a hybrid rate system where ratepayers see both a fixed fee, which doesn't change regardless of how much they use, and a variable fee, which fluctuates based on their usage. In this hybrid system, lower usage does mean that rates sometimes outpace the overall cost of the budget. So if usage is going down, it takes more of an increase in that variable rate to raise the same amount. And while we're all about conservation, it does create some pressures in the rate structure, which you'll see in this year's budget. The largest cost driver this year is personnel costs. You may recall that last year I sat here and I said, we have a vacancy and we're eliminating it. Well, it was a terrible idea. And it became clear almost immediately that that specific meter position was required to remain intact to keep the entire system functioning. In fact, because of that position, working with Katie on my team, we have, you could probably will see this in the capital section, that meter upgrade program we've been working on for years. We have accomplished upgrading 300 more in the last year than, and that's huge. Just think about that. That's almost like one a day, and we have to write letters to people, schedule time to get into their house, change out the meter. We've worked with some meter shortages and backlogs. And anyway, I'm very proud of the team working on that, and that's one of the benefits of having this position back in the budget. Now, there are costs associated with that. We removed it from last year's budget, so we went down, and then we popped back up this year. In addition to that, we have 3 individuals on staff who have moved on to our health insurance plan off of their spouse or partner's plan, and so that has bumped costs a little bit as well. But overall, these costs are about maintaining our operational stability and our service levels. This is not an increase in the scope. Our core operating pressures outside of the personnel costs are electricity. It takes a lot of electricity to pump the water up from the lake, to pump the sewage down to the wastewater treatment facility, chemicals, and, as you've heard me talk about before, sludge removal. Notably, wastewater seems to have been stabilized in the sludge removal front, which I'm very, very happy about. But the chemicals were still playing catch up in wastewater. So those 2 line items will be able to work together in the current year's budget to keep us on target, because sludge is a little bit low, chemicals are a little bit high. But we've worked to get them in line in FY27. That's big picture. In the water fund continues to be a steady, well-managed fund. It's benefiting from some past debt payoffs this year. The operating increase and the increase to expenditures or expenses is 2.4%. The revenue pressures, what I was describing about the rates, we're looking at a revenue increase of 4.3%. Cost drivers, like I noted, personnel, benefits, electricity. We're spending a lot to pump the water up from the lake. We're continuing our multi-year capital reinvestment in the water fund. We are on years 3 of 3 or 3 of 4 on some valve replacement, pumps, filter upgrades. We've been working on a feasibility study for expanding the McQuam Shore plant, and then we're continuing the meter replacement that I previously mentioned. In the water fund, debt service has decreased by 11% because of old debt falling off, and we are happy to have those funds to reallocate across the water fund. The wastewater fund, there's more pressure here, especially from chemicals and debt, as I noted, but some proactive planning is underway. In addition to personnel and benefits and electricity and chemicals, this is the first year of debt payment on our Houghton Park bond, and so that is pushing up the debt service in the wastewater fund. In the wastewater fund specifically, the overall increase is half related to that debt service payment and half related to other operating increases. Stormwater is the smallest of our 3 enterprise funds. It's also the newest. It is still settling out, although I think we have it in pretty good shape these days. We have just a small increase here. This is less than $10 a year for the typical residential property. We made a strategic move this year towards sustainability and resilience by starting a capital reserve line of $30,000. This is similar to the capital reserve line that we have in the water fund and the wastewater fund that we've had there for many years. Looking ahead, we have 4 major capital items on the horizon here. These are not impacting the FY27 budget, but they are very important for long-term infrastructure reliability and for future rate planning. The first has already been approved. It's the rehabilitation of the original water tank on Otis Hill. Recall, this is a $1.6 million project, and we're anticipating $800,000 of forgiveness at the end, and the remaining $800,000 will be paid back over 40 years at 0% interest rate. It's hard to beat that. On the horizon, we have some work that needs to be done at our Fairfax water plant that way. In particular, the North Dam spillway is in poor condition, and we have been working with an engineering firm to figure out what needs to be done. We will have to replace it. We're just trying to figure out with the state of Vermont if they're going to also want us to replace the culvert under the road, which would be a very big project, or if they would be okay with a smaller replacement that would leave the roadway alone. This is about $1.5 million, and we would need to go out to bond to fund this, so expect to be hearing more about this in the future. On the wastewater side of the house, we have two big projects on the horizon. The centrifuge is at the end of its life, or it's nearing the end of its life. We've talked quite a bit about the centrifuge recently. You may recall that we had some years of big sludge numbers, way over budget, as we had to pay to have mobile dewatering come in when the centrifuge was down, and for some extraordinary sludge removal that we had planned and we used some reserves for. But really the centrifuge is due for a replacement and an expansion so it can handle more. That we expect to be about $1.7 million. That would also involve drawing down the two big blue tanks, and so getting those levels way down as we replace the centrifuge so that we can really start fresh with the new equipment. Down at the wastewater treatment facility, we have 5 trains of RBCs, which I can't remember the acronym, rotating biocontactors. Very, very good, thank you. And train 5 has been offline for some time. Rebuilding train 5 has a price tag of about $1.2 million. So I expect we'll be talking about these 3 items. All 3 will require a bond vote, and they'll be coming up in the next 12 to 18 months probably in our discussions. Overall, I think that this is a balanced and responsible budget that maintains our core service levels. It's aligned with inflation, and it begins preparing for some of our significant future capital needs. And we're really focusing here on reliability of the service that we provide to all of our ratepayers and our long-term system sustainability. I can move into all of the numbers. I'm interested in some feedback maybe from the Finance Committee, and then I'll take the temperature of the council to see what you'd like to hear about next. Tim?
We met, Chad, Elizabeth, and I with Sarah, and we thought this was a fair budget. Would you just explain, just for everyone, I know I try to do this every time, the one-third concept?
I would be happy to. So in the city, we have 4 main funds. We have the general fund, which is primarily funded through tax dollars. And then we have these 3 enterprise funds, water, wastewater, and stormwater. Spread across these funds are staff and other overhead costs associated with operating the city as a whole. And so for Dominic, for myself, for my team, we are heavily involved in the budgets, budget to actual, grants, debt service payments, all of the invoice processing, the billing and collecting of water and sewer. Our time is split across these funds so that we're funded equitably by the different paying groups that we serve. Public Works is another group that is split across these funds. So Public Works, if it were just highways, would be responsible for the streets and the sidewalks in the city. It would make sense then that city residents were the ones funding that group. But our group is also responsible for the underground water and wastewater infrastructure throughout the entire system, which expands beyond the boundaries of the city. And so their time and benefits and and their overhead costs are also split between the general fund, water, and the wastewater fund, similar to the administrative overhead. Because at any given time, anyone on the system who's having an issue below ground could call up and have a response from our crew. There's a water break outside of the city limits. The crew is going to drop everything and go work on that. And so we are, once again, more equitably spreading the cost of access across those who pay the rates. How did you, Tim?
I think you did well.
Thank you.
In layman's terms, I'll just say that if someone
The abridged version.
If someone was working in just for Dominic, and the general fund was paying that, but half their time was spent down at the water plant, the water fund should have to pay for that. And that's the concept. And you've done a very good job over the last few years doing it. A couple of things that we also did, we talked about raising the capital reserve, which formerly known as budget stabilization, right?
Yes.
But we did do it, although,
We did.
only for stormwater, right?
We added one for stormwater, and then after discussion with the council, I indexed water and wastewater to, to a low inflationary number, really in line with the overall increases, so that we aren't in a position 10 years from now saying, gosh, we haven't raised this, we really need to hike it. Back
So
to
instead of us, it was 100,000, right?
It was, and last year we jumped it.
Right, so instead of saying, okay, this year let's do $130,000, and then in a couple of years let's do $150,000, Sarah offered, and we all agreed, let's just increase that due to inflation every year. So every year we have, it might be next year, it might be 103 or something like that. So I thought that was a good move. And then the other one was, we talked about assets that we are supporting now that we may no longer need. And that was Silver Lake out in Fairfax, or I'm sorry, Georgia. But I was happy. Liz, were you happy with how things turned out? Jen?
Yeah.
What do you guys think?
No, it was a great budget. Sarah, you did a great job. We've been through it as the finance committee, so I don't have any questions. I agree with the budget. I agree with the increase of inflation. And I don't have any questions.
Yeah, the discussion, this is the first time for me going and learning a lot, but it's a very responsible budget where everything is covered and with contingencies for the future, especially as we see parts go down, unexpected costs, where does that come from? And Sarah, you did a really nice job showing where all of that is and where that goes, money in and money out. It matches.
And we're always mindful of fixed income folks and those flat fees rising. We're always looking at that on the budget. We always ask Sarah, there's something more we should do. What about the users who are using more? I think we came up with a couple preliminary things, not ready to discuss it with the council yet, but some things that city staff was going to take a look at for next budget that could alleviate some of those concerns by the fixed income people. And that's one of our concerns too.
Mm-hmm.
We're watching this too. When the budget goes up, we understand these people aren't fixed incomes, and if they're putting more money here, they're losing money somewhere else. So.
Thanks for your work on that. Does anyone, we can take a motion to adopt the budget and then have a discussion and questions.
I move to adopt the water, wastewater, and stormwater budgets.
Thanks, Chad. Second?
I'll second.
Thanks, Lindsay. Any discussion or questions for our finance committee or Sarah?
Thank you, Sarah.
You're welcome. Thank you. Any questions? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
All right, thank you very much.
And still, Sarah Macy.
Yes. The next thing on your list is to review and accept or approve the internal financial control checklist for municipalities. The state auditor's office compiles this, and municipalities are required to present it to their governing body at least once a year. I try to sneak it in right before the auditors show up. That's a good trigger for me to remind myself. We call that habit stacking. This is what I would consider.
Were we public comment yet on this? That's literally why we're here.
Yeah.
Oh,
I'm so sorry.
Yeah, we've been waiting for waiting so long.
Okay,
so what,
I'm so sorry.
Is this, can we talk now?
Yes,
we're
I'm very
behind. We have a lot of shit to do. I'm not trying to be rude. What are we going to do about Lakeview Terrace's water situation? The water main is repeatedly flooding out basements, washing people's sewer lines off. He's got $20,000 worth of damage since January. I've lost a porch. Big thing. There's a union meeting tonight with UPM, or else we'd have more of our neighbors here. Like, what's the plan?
We've had basements flooding for years now.
Okay.
And we're just like.
Yeah, Tim, I think you
paving over.
forgot to put us on the.
Yeah. No, this is on me. I'm sorry. Public comment was right
Was
there.
this when we were supposed to be though? Because Tim.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't want- So what's the
You
plan?
probably could have commented
What's the
earlier
plan?
than
Let's
that.
be quick. What's the plan?
Well,
Do
we might
have
not
a
have
plan?
a full plan right now.
Okay,
but-
yeah.
I think he's just a little little antsy because we all have jobs and we all have to
Yeah,
work
we
in the
get up
morning.
at
and it-
4:30.
and it
Oh,
went
we all do too. I
Okay.
totally get it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, it took a while for that BFA thing, so we were like.
Oh, believe us, yeah.
So what's,
Marty, can you speak to the issues at Lakeview?
Sure. And Marty, specifically, I think the reason for the patch rather than the replacement, because I think that's the most compelling reason.
Sure. So Lakeview Terrace has a water main that runs up the street that is literally right on top of the sewer main. So today, if that infrastructure were to be built, that would not be allowed. You have to have 10 feet of separation. So there's two options and what happens is when that water main breaks, it typically follows the sewer line down. And if there's any blockage in the sewer line, or the sewer line can't handle the amount of water going down through that, it'll back up.
Into the house.
And it'll back up into the service lines. So there's a couple, you could put a backflow preventer on the service line, which would prevent that from going back into the house, into the basements. Or you could remove the water line and sewer line and put in new ones and have the 10 feet of separation, which would require total reconstruction of the road, putting in temporary water services and temporary sewer services. Or you could look at slip lining that sewer main on Lakeview Terrace to allow that water to be able to go down through there without forcing it back in. We've got a quote right now from a company out of Maine that is giving us a proposal to come in and video that sewer line to give us a proposal on what it would cost to reline that, slip line it, which they could do without having to replace it and have that separation from the water line.
When will they be here?
This summer, but we're waiting to find out what their schedule is. They've got another job they're trying to coordinate it with.
What would the cost be for separation, Marty?
Probably $2 million, rough numbers. And then, okay, if you get into separation, there's, would you want to put curbs in? Would you want to put sidewalks in at the same time? And then it's a whole cascade.
Yeah.
Has this been a chronic issue you've lived here a long time. I don't know how long you folks have lived on Lakeview Terrace. Like, has this always been an issue, or is it more recent?
So the guy, three doors down, they had a union meeting, they couldn't be here, but they're twice a year, the water main breaks in front of their, to where it's like you can go out and count the squares. And they had about $50,000 worth of renovations they had to do to try to abate it. His next door neighbor flooded once. Water main broke, the same place, flooded his basement 5 feet, lost everything. They got it pumped out, the water was shut off, they turned the water back on. Same night.
How many years, like?
Probably 3 years.
So the past few years, so.
3 or 4 years. I don't know if it's work its way up the hill, but 3 houses down, Lakeview Terrace is sort of like a step,
Oh,
right? Flattens
yeah,
out, steps
yeah.
up, Messenger,
It's
steps up. the
it's
hill,
terrible
right?
to walk up.
We're right at the second hump. And
Okay.
so the problems have escalated up the hill, but 2 houses down from me, they've been dealing with this for a decade, is what they've been telling me.
But we don't know that because they're not here, but
Yeah, I'm not
recently-
like, yeah, they all had union tonight, so.
But recently, he's the house on the corner that the sewage backed up into. Because, I mean, this is thousands of dollars worth of damage, and anything that's down in there, even, that's just, and with how much water and how often it's happening, we're gonna have foundation problems soon.
Right.
Sir, did you buy the Menkins property?
16, like you around the corner?
Around the corner?
Yes.
On the west side?
Yeah.
Okay. And did you have some engineering done?
We had to have a pipe burst. They suggested patching it, but patching it showed that it was only going to eventually erode the rest of the pipe as well because of the quality of the pipe. Because the pipe, for example, laid down in my yard was a very poor quality.
I think it was Orangeburg, wasn't it?
It was indeed, yeah, absolutely. And I said even if they patched it, the rest of it was likely going to erode within the next couple of years anyway. So that eventually would mean they had to replace the entire thing, pipe burst, and that cost me about $20K.
So you invested $20,000 of your own money on the spur line from your house to the main on Lakeview Terrace?
Absolutely. And a water line, right? Did they put a water line into?
Yes.
Marty, you talk about slipping the sewer on the main line as one of the options, but, or not the main line, the sewer line, but that doesn't resolve the issue of the main line having issues. What's causing the main line to have regular bursts? Is it the depth?
The main line is probably, the water main line is probably 100 years old.
So then
If you had frost, literally when we dug that this year, we had frost that was probably 2 inches above that water main. So obviously the frost in the road drives a lot deeper than on the lawn, just because the traffic is driving it further down. That sewer line, all the holes you saw dug, we had one water main break up by the hydrant, which was by this gentleman's house on the corner of Messenger and Lakeview. And in order to make that repair, we had to keep going because the water line was in such bad shape. We had to keep building ourselves out to get to a section that was good enough to repair. And then the second water main break caused the sewer line to break. So the same thing, we had to literally cut a piece of water line out, go in and find a good section of sewer line to go back to, replace the sewer line, and then put a new water line back in. In doing that, we put another valve in lower down so we wouldn't have to isolate that entire area if it happened again. But the problem in what would happen is one of the challenges is when we had that first water break on Lakeview Terrace, we were getting calls from people on High Street saying they were losing pressure, so we knew we had a water break. Typically it'll surface. You'll be able to find it, so we send everybody out, and unless we get a call from somebody saying, hey, you've got water pouring down the street, you can find it. In that case, we couldn't find it because it was going in the sewer. So what you do if you can't find it surface, then you go and start listening to hydrants, trying to find a water leak, trying to hear the water on the hydrant. If you can't do that, you literally start pulling manhole covers to see if you have an additional flow in an area that you typically don't. And that's how we found the water break on Lakeview Terrace, was by pulling the manhole cover at the bottom of the street. We knew it was in that area, so we have a general idea of where it should be, but that's how the guys that have the experience that have been here for 20, Matt Moharan found the water break. He found it by pulling the cover, knowing it might be there. So by slip lining that sewer line, what'll happen in the future, if that water line breaks, it's not gonna penetrate that sewer line because it's sealed. So it's just gonna go down through and surface somewhere.
We're still under the problem that main still being really old and needing to eventually be replaced.
Yeah. And that's indicative of the entire system.
Is there something that can be done, like, pretty immediately to make sure that this problem is less likely to happen?
Immediate would be the slip lining, and that wouldn't solve it, but that would help. And to do the entire street, to slip line the entire street, you're probably $250,000. So what we're gonna look at is the worst section is from Messenger to Main, to see what it would cost to slip line that and see the condition. But they would come in and film it, camera it, and see exactly what would be involved in slip lining it, and that's all these guys do, so.
Marty, they could use backflows though in the meantime.
Right. You could put a backflow in, any service line could put a backflow in their basement to prevent it from coming in. And what it would do, it would work up the street, and whoever doesn't have a backflow is who's gonna get it.
And it would be like, so we would have to pay for it?
How much is
And then
backflow?
I have
Hold
a-
on,
I-
hold on.
wait.
Let's listen to what he has to say.
What's the backflow cost, Marty?
It depends on the application. I mean, you're $5 or $6 grand probably.
Per household?
Right.
So whoever can't spend that gets the shit in their basement?
So if they do this report.
That's the nature of a sewer system though. I mean, I don't have one in my house, but I run the risk of having it back up into
So
my.
your infrastructure can impede on ours, but we can't impede on yours?
Yeah, I was thinking the same. If I was screwing around outside, did $20,000 with damage to City Hall, I think it'd be a little different. You know, I think the effect would be. And you're talking about a significant portion of somebody's yearly income on our street. Like, let's get real.
Yeah.
So if we do this report and we find out it costs $250,000 down the slip line for just the lower part, what then has to happen for the city to approve to pay for that? I mean, that's not in the city budget, I'm sure. So like
Is that in
what's
this
the next
budget?
step then if that's what's determined?
It's not specifically in the budget, but as you heard us discussing, we have a capital reserve funding line.
I have some other immediate things I'd like to add. The city's property and casualty insurance with Vermont League of Cities and Towns. And if you don't have one of these, grab it for the phone number at the bottom. You should call Kristen Smith. She'll answer the main line after you listen to her voice. Has a sewer backup coverage. So if it's coming back through the sewer, it's up to $10,000 per occurrence. And any member of the system can put in a claim against that. And so I would, if you haven't already done that.
Is sewer, hold on, is sewer specifically separate from wastewater?
The sewer and wastewater are going to be, we're using those two things interchangeably. It sounds like maybe there's also water flooding, infiltrating, so I don't know about that, but if it's coming back through the sewer, it's certainly worth a go. It's $10,000 per occurrence. And I was hoping to grab quickly to see if they had some cost assistance for the backflow things, if you were maybe having a thought about that. But that is something, Kristen can help any of you and tell your neighbors as well, please.
Those backflows are those white, with the flapper inside it, right? That's not what we're talking about?
Yeah, well, the things that you see sticking out of yards are a clean out that people have put in.
No, I'm talking about
but a backflow is basically a box that they put in your sewer line that has a trap door in it that'll allow everything to go out. But as soon as something starts to push against it, it seals it closed.
And so going downstairs into their basements and installing that in is $5,000 a household?
Depending on what the application is. Some put them outside their house, and so you have to excavate out and put it in the sewer line. When you had did they offer you that?
No.
When they put in the sewer line?
No, they
So typically they would do that. When they put in a new sewer line, they would offer a backflow.
I know Alan put one in my office. Yeah, I just want to make sure it was the same thing. I didn't know they were that expensive.
It depends. Some are less, some are more than that, but that's a ballpark of.
So Dom, this is a pretty, obviously a significant issue for the street, all the people on the street. What are the steps to make it better?
d.cloud@stalbansvt.com.
That's it.
Send me your email with your contact info and tell me your situation, figure out a plan.
I appreciate it, yeah.
Yeah.
I want to be very clear that the people from the water department are awesome.
Yeah.
They are not, I'm not upset.
No, we get it.
They always show up at Sunday night, it's like balls cold. It's
Yeah, they were
terrible.
there all night on Lake
It's a real
I do apologize for missing public comment. Next time you come though, the public comment at the front of the meeting, you could say, hey, I'm here to talk about my basement flooding, and we would have had you.
We thought we were waiting on the water thing.
Yeah, I totally,
It was supposed to be on the agenda, and we're like, well, they printed it.
No, I get that,
Agenda,
but
so-
hopefully you'll come back with good
Yeah.
news, and then you can say, hey, we're here to talk about our
And
basement.
the other people.
Yeah, everybody's pretty mad, yeah.
Of course.
They're all at the point, at the first hump, the ones that really take it on the face, they're like, don't believe that you guys give a damn.
No, that's just not true.
I'm here. So
Yes, thank you for coming. And Sarah, that's really great advice about the insurance policy. And I'm assuming everyone, have probably receipts from all the work that you've had done.
When did this all happen? This winter?
Within the last few months.
January, February.
Okay, so it
The
hasn't.
January one was interesting because it drilled it his way and it also came up under the neighborhood down the street to the next neighbor. It came up in there and froze their cars in. And so I went out there with it, like two of us were swinging an axe for about 3 hours, busting the car out of a foot of.
It's not how you want your neighborhood to come together, right?
Well, yeah, but that particular leak was 48 hours, I believe. Because they came in at one point, they were listening to all of our water mains in the basement of all of our houses. They were coming through doing the screwdriver tests and trying to find it. But that kind of popped out, and then at some point it overcame the road, took our concrete porch away, and we had like the small problems. He took it big time. People 2 houses down, 3 houses down, they took it hard. And it's been reoccurring.
So,
let's try to find something in the short term.
Appreciate it.
Insurance claim is a good idea, and let's just get a conversation going about what happened, and then probably be a combination of solutions.
Insurance does deny if you didn't already preactively have the sewer backup or anything.
What was that? Your personal homeowner's?
Yeah.
The city's does not. They call it a no fault, right? Like you had backup, you have receipts. So, yeah.
Krista can help
I
us.
could hopefully help a bit.
And then you had one more issue under public comment. Did you, Mr. Lancaster?
Yeah, oh, okay, I don't know if it's time or not, but this
Go for
affects.
it, you've waited long enough.
This affects all of us. So, everybody's house, I guess in 2012, you guys changed the rule that say to put a 5 feet abatement on it. My neighbor's house is 3 feet from my property line. We're all packed in weird ways, and so these water problems are causing everybody's floating slab on the side of their house to start busting down. And so we're getting the garage built. We want local people from St. Albans and Fairfax, like right here. We're gonna go knock our garage down, make it a little bit longer so it fits, but in the same footprint, put it back up. Came in here in January, no problem. Everybody gave me a thumbs up, high five left. Came in here in April, oh yeah, you gotta be 5 feet away. Well, okay. Well, we got a survey. Everybody's house is way off. I come back to the neighborhood and say, hey, guess what about my garage? And everybody's like, I'm 4 inches away, I'm 3 inches away. Well, the lady in the office is like, yeah, people have to cut down their garages all the time. They just don't get it back.
Because they're
So-
attached, we're really lucky ours is.
Yeah, ours
attached.
isn't,
But our
so-
driveway will no longer line up with our.
Can you include that in your email to Dawn?
Yeah, like this is getting ridiculous.
And then
so
that also counts the eve, but we don't know where that like.
that isn't in the print, but now it's, every time I've gone to the store, you've gone down to the hallway, it's a different story. And
But nobody told you about asking for a permit and then getting denied and then being able to go to the DRB for.
I was warned that that never happens.
Yeah.
And I didn't have time.
Yeah.
And that was a waste of my time, and that was never gonna happen because it was gonna be a denial.
Variances don't.
Yeah.
And that was the message you got?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Okay.
And there was somebody else in the office listening, because their eyes got big, because when I came in here in January, they were like, the only rule is if it's an ADU, it's gotta be 5 feet off. Well, it's not an ADU, so they're like, I left, and then I came back, and they're like, oh yeah, by the way, here's all this other stuff. And like that's,
Well, on the other side of us, all their garages are attached and across the street are attached and they're on the property
and
line.
I specifically asked her, like, what about my neighbor? Because all this water that's been flowing is messing up people's, the floating slab on the side of their frost wall for their house.
Yeah.
Oh, well, they just have to tear the garage down and get back.
Yeah,
And there's witnesses in the office.
No,
The
I
lady
believe
that
you.
was down there to begin with wasn't there when I came back. There was 2 people in there, her eyes got big. And I'm like, well, I'm the reasonable one. You may not want to say it that way.
Dom, is that something you can check in with Chip about?
Yeah, and so we're gonna take care of that. And I really appreciate you bringing that up, because I don't know if I could do that now, but yeah, that's.
Thank
Well,
you.
that's how we got into this, is we started building a garage and talking to other people, and they're like, well, we're glad you're going through it first, because we're next. But then when we
Came back.
came back, they said 5 feet off, so we warned them, and they're like, wait, what?
Okay.
And we were the first person, so
And then we started talking to all of our neighbors, and then
when
water
we
issues
say go
got
get a
brought up.
survey, I want you to know, it's $5,200
Yeah, for a survey.
for a survey.
by the
So
way.
each one of those people that is gonna come down there and talk to you, you're gonna say, go get a survey.
Yeah.
And they're gonna find out it's $5,200 tax on top of everything. In most states, it's $800.
Yeah.
And so that's a fun thing with Vermont, and like a little added tax of living here too. So just heads up. So you're gonna have a lot of people that are hot from having to pay $5,200 to find out that they're 3 inches off the property line, and their house somehow is now illegal. Because that's the way it's gonna be explained to them, like. explain
We'll
to
look
you.
into
Yeah.
that. And by we, I mean Dom. Because I'm going back to school tomorrow, so.
I have one more public comment, I'll get out of your hair. There were 2 lawyers around, and then there was a third one. I'm glad we're paying the one that we're paying. The other 2.
Thank you. Thanks for your patience. I apologize again, and.
Don't feel the need to stay for the rest of the meeting.
Yeah, so.
Can we have-
Sleep well.
You have a
Yeah,
thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Sorry for your troubles. Listen, Tim always forgot public comment, and you're in charge of me.
Yeah, you guys are supposed to, I'm sitting next to her anymore. so-
But they should have spoken earlier. Feel bad now.
Because they thought that.
Yeah, and I get it. Okay, Sarah. All right. Okay. Oh, I'm not doing very good on the length of this meeting.
No.
Sorry, guys.
It's okay. Screw up your average.
Run that stuff through you and I, let's not have to go through Kristen. In the event that they end up emailing Kristen, let's you and I work on it.
About the insurance stuff.
Yeah.
I'll give her a heads up. And then I think maybe we should put in an application for a passive grant to offset some costs.
Yeah. I can.
Interesting. I've got to lunch here.
Hmm?
And our ongoing conversations on insurance.
Fair, I'm not saying that the new ones wouldn't have that though. I just happened to be able to Google it. All
Okay,
right.
so the mayor's indisposed, so go ahead, Sarah.
Okay, this is, so the state auditor puts together this internal control checklist for municipalities. Municipalities are required to look at it once a year. I already said all that. And it is, in my opinion, the absolute bare minimum. Rest assured, our system of internal controls is much more robust than this. I had to write it up for the audit last year, and it was 18 pages long. This is, we're really just going through the motions here. These are the bare minimum. I've marked what we do, what we don't do, and any comments. I'd be happy to answer questions that you have or run you privately through the whole.
Are they supposed to all be yes?
No, they're not supposed to all be yes. Yeah, so like are all account records currently maintained by one individual? You don't want that to be yes, because then you'll have segregation of duties. And then do you reconcile bank and ledger balances monthly? You want that to be yes, right? So, and so on. So they are not all supposed to be yes.
I move to approve the internal financial control checklist.
Motion made by Chad, seconded by Eric. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay.
Thank you,
Okay,
sir.
record reflect that we approve the financial control checklist.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Tim. All right, so we're going to move on to the request for outdoor seating outside of Nellie's, and Shannon's going to change seats here. Can I provide a little context? Yeah. So we have been talking about the crossability of Federal Street for some time now. Crossing at the corner of Nellie's, crossing towards Boston Tailoring being pretty tricky. So Shannon has a proposal that she wants to talk to us about that could help with that challenge.
So I was looking at different options for just that area. I mean, as we all know, if anybody goes down there, anybody trying to cross there, I don't care if it's a small car or a big car, it's very hard to see coming out of there. People trying to cross the street, and it's also being on the corner where the outside seating can be a challenge, only because like people go around that corner and then there's tables there, and you have that, so you have the cars that are up, you have the big poles that are there, there's just like a lot of impeding stuff there. So I've seen in a lot of places these parklets that they have in different sections to have outdoor seating. What I'm proposing would be like low visibility, so really like when you're at that stop sign, you would be able to see the cars that are coming down. The space there is not very big. If you look at the end, there's like some kind of, just like what it looks like now, kind of what I'm proposing to just kind of make that area be more like engaging with people, because if you put no parking on those spots, you're never going to stop people from parking there. I can tell you that right now. And what this proposal would be to put something this year that would be kind of temporary, knowing that we're doing the Federal Street redo, and then at that point either it gets reevaluated of whether that's like a permanent kind of solution of expanding that out and getting rid of those parking, or at least making that area more easily to turn out of. So yeah, I don't know if there's any questions.
So when I was at Ryan's, and whatever engineer was going to end up doing Kingman Street, the streetscape, came into us. Obviously, this was before COVID, when it was still Ryan's, and showed us these things. Burlington had started doing them, and they made it sound like the city was all on board about having these things, which we were very excited about. I think it's a great idea. I think it always has to be, the deal was then, I think I agree with it now, is that it's always going to have to be temporary for the summer. So the way it was explained to us at Ryan's and the way they do it in Burlington is that the business owner has to remove it in the wintertime for snow removal and things like that. It's not a permanent thing.
Right.
And as long as it's not permanent, I 100% agree with it, because that intersection is terrible. And to lose a couple of parking spots, to have
But
something.
no, in the winter, if it is removed and something else is not put there, people will park there.
Which I've seen in Montpelier
Yeah.
and Montreal, they do park there in the wintertime, and it's
Right.
just, it goes back to the situation we have now versus improving it for at least 8 months a year. I did see that in Montpelier, and I did see it in Montreal. I also saw that when they did those on streets that were busy as Federal, Montpelier had some back streets where they kind of were lined up after each other, which is great. Busier streets, they put the giant cement blocks at both ends because just like the festivals, vehicles are stupid and they need something to stop them. And the wood inside rails didn't help that much.
Right.
And then the other thing I saw was they did do railings, I see it on there, to prevent people from just stepping off on the outside. Step off where you're supposed to when you're standing up there eating and stuff. Don't step down into the road. And I assume that was
Yeah, I mean, I really like, we actually get people, I like this concept, actually, which leaves the whole side of the building of open for people to walk. Because we do get complaints sometimes down there, like people with strollers, because there's so many poles and doorways and things, like it's really hard to kind of maneuver around everything. So it would kind of put that seating like concise in one space. And I mean, it's not going to increase the outside seating I have now, right? Because I have 6 tables, I think. I probably would still only have 6 tables total, so it's not going to increase it for me. But I think that it would, 1, look better, and 2, be more functional. And see if taking those spaces out would actually give an impact. And when I was saying permanent with the Federal Street, is that maybe that sidewalk is just goes out further, like that there isn't any space there for parking. Not necessarily that it would be a permanent structure there, but just that like the parking would be permanently gone. So
I think that I love the outdoor seating that we have for Main Street, and I believe City Side has like a side where people can be outside there too. I think, I mean, you used to do that at your place. I think the more we can have outside stuff going on, the better it is for the street. And I was just in Montreal, and this is everywhere.
And we've talked about like the perception of Kingman, right? And like people, and if you look, like if you're coming around the corner from the hotel and you look up, it's just darkness, right? There's not, well, no, just like even looking at Federal Street, like if you
Going
look,
towards
there's no real lights
or
on the
whatever.
side there. There's nothing to like even like to make anybody feel like that they want to go that way, right? And so my plan is to at least make it an enjoyable space with, you know, plants and that, you know what I mean? Like, right, like the lights going across and stuff like that, so.
Sharon, I love this idea. I only worry about, like, you know how insane cars go past there, and now we're putting people out closer. Like, are we going to put speed bumps or anything to slow the cars down?
I wonder if this would slow the cars down.
I would hope
right?
so.
Like
but
most cars.
idiots that just go
Well, that's what I was thinking, the barriers too.
Well,
Yeah.
I will say in the 7 years, the cars haven't gotten hit.
The cars that are there.
The cars that are there have not gotten hit, right?
I love it.
And yes, I think that we definitely, and I think that I talked with Dom, like we would have to work with the city and we want to do it in the safest way possible. And if you look, those spaces are pretty narrow. So like, it's not like it's going to be a big deck going out there, right? It's going to be at street level. It's going to probably be a little bit inside where the parked cars would be now. And so the tables, it literally will be wide enough for a table and chairs there, right? It's not going to be like impeding into the street at all. Like I said, maybe it will slow people down. Maybe, I mean, the street is not super wide there, so there is that. But it is a structure, right? It's not. I'm not talking. I'm not going to put like those little chain things around it, right? It's going to be an actual physical structure with some beams that go up, with some kind of because the sun like
Shade.
beats down on there.
Yeah.
You know, some kind of shade, the lights can go in, so it's going, like, it's going to be a noticeable structure, it's
Yeah.
not going to be just this small little.
I've been always wanting to sit outside in Ellie's because it, like, you have a good view of the sunset and everything, but it's always, like, it's so hot, you're on concrete, it's not pretty. I think this will be awesome.
Well, and if when Char opens up,
Right.
they have outdoor seating down there, so you'll have several places that have some opportunities for that.
And I like thinking about what you said, that the consistency I see between the different designs I've seen out there. I'm hoping that we reach out to some of these other communities and see what their zoning was set up, how they set up the rules, because I know we don't have anything in our land use as far as this kind of situation goes. But I know most of them were also raised. They were even a couple steps up, I think, on Pilgrim. I wonder if that's because cars could not hit people directly, instead they go underneath it, they hit it or whatever.
But that would be like
I'm
the
curious
coolest
about
thing.
that.
So the council's okay with the concept?
I
Staff
will.
get
Yes.
together and work
Yeah.
out the
We're just
details?
fangirling over.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just have some questions like, what would the cost be, who's taking on that cost, what would happen then?
You're looking
when
at
it's-
her.
Right, what, like, do you have a place to store all of this equipment in the winter, or would you need some,
I think that would be,
Yeah,
Probably
I
have
mean,
to
we
figure
really
that
would
out,
have to
right?
figure out like what the design is gonna be and how, you know what I mean, like how, like permanent of a structure it's gonna be. Obviously, anything can be taken down, right? So I think the main thing was, are we okay with me moving forward with working with the city to make sure that we put something in place that works for everybody? It's kind of.
yes, and I just have one more question, like, you are talking about safety. Is there gonna be some way to like monitor, like to be able to say, because we put this out here, it's safer, and then we could try using it in other areas, right? We can say this made this area safer for our pedestrians, like, or we could put that thing out in the middle of the road and
See how many
times it
people
gets
hit
hit, yeah. Compared to previously, like, do you envision a way to be able to,
I mean, I think, I don't know that it will make it safer for people trying to cross that street, to be honest, because nobody stops there.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter like what you do, people just don't stop at that intersection for people crossing. And I mean, you could be halfway, I've seen people walk across the street, somebody stop to let them by and somebody go around that person and almost hit them. So like, that kind of stupid behavior is not gonna get fixed by this, but what it should help with is people coming down Kingman and trying to take either a right or a left, because like, even if you're going right, you're taking your life into your own hands, like trying to turn off from there. So this would at least, you can like see through and see if cars are coming.
Right,
It's
it's better than a car.
right, and it's the same on Center Street, coming down there, you know, you could wait or not, who knows, you can't see anything. So I just feel like a lot of those areas could benefit from something different.
So,
Parklet.
I can make a
Don't.
motion.
Do you need a motion, or is that helpful?
Yeah, I can do
Take a
it.
motion.
And should I ask public comment? I didn't forget this time.
Art, have you had a conversation with your neighbor across the road?
I have not.
I would suggest that.
Well,
The
I
Boston
mean,
Taylor.
his main thing is his 30-minute parking, as long as people stay out of his 30-minute
I would
two
just,
things park. But yeah, I'll definitely will have a conversation with him. So.
I think it's a good idea.
All right, I move that city staff start looking at parklet proposals and come up with kind of a policy and design of probably not just Shannon's project, but kind of a way forward if other businesses want to do it too. Does that make sense?
Do I have a second?
Second.
Thanks, Eric. Any more discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thanks. All right. Whew. Mayor's report. I'm going to keep it really short and sweet. This Sunday, I have a mayor meetup in the park at 10 a.m., June 14th. I want to congratulate the city, Arlie, Chip, and city staff for welcoming so many people into St. Albans this past week for the Historic Preservation and the Arts Conference. I could only make it to the after hours little celebrations, so that was fun. And
Big of you, Trudy.
yeah, I know, right? I didn't have to work. People had a lot of really wonderful things to say about the city, so kudos to us for hosting that. Marty, there's this, I know it's state, but there's this getting onto the interstate by the complex in the median there. The sign is just down. I think are you aware of that?
Ran over.
Oh, it did. Oh, I would hate to see what that did to a car.
I sent an email out to our.
Okay, okay, perfect. And this is Pride Week. There's lots of activities going on and a parade on Sunday.
Is the mayor meet up during the parade?
It is before the parade, yes. I have other things, but given the time, I think we'll move right along. Do you want to start, Lindsay? Sure, council reports.
I'm gonna stay real short too. It's Pride Month. Happy Pride. I was gonna say that there's a lot of events happening. I'm gonna try to go to this weekend's one after the mayor meetup. And the next public safety meeting is gonna be June 30th at 4:30. I still need to send that in. We just decided on that yesterday or so. And we had a really great chat with Lieutenant Weatherby last time. And we had another person from the public come. It was really great. So June 30th, 4:30 in the park.
Great.
Thanks.
Chad?
I don't have anything. I was going to talk a little bit of traffic, but we did that plenty, so I'm good.
Shannon?
Yeah, I don't have a ton, and like I said, it's kind of late. One thing is the house again on Bank that burned down.
The whole.
The whole.
This summer.
Like, their lawn is now like super, like, I know that we said that like they need to do stuff there, but is that being pushed?
Marty?
Yeah, they've been notified through the PHSO.
And what happens like if people just don't?
So they'll have 7 days to mow it. If they don't, they get fined on a daily basis.
Right. Yeah, and I mean, other than, you know, your normal like traffic stuff, garbage stuff, again, of businesses with, you know, garbage and stuff in the back, but, I mean, we live in a city, so, it'll be a mess, I guess.
Good?
Yeah.
Liz?
I just had some questions about overhanging branches above sidewalks, or right now with like seeds and stuff falling. I've seen sidewalk sweepers go through in other areas, but they also come down Main Street and clean that. Are the homeowners supposed to be trimming those things? Those are just some things wondering as I've just walked around my neighborhood.
We trim it if you let us know where they are.
Okay. Okay. And then the other thing is just dumpsters. Like sometimes I just see people drive up to dumpsters, throw their junk in the dumpster, and then drive off. And I think, do they live there? Are they allowed to? And I emailed back and forth with Marty about that.
Was it your dumpster? Oh, okay.
You know, a neighboring dumpster. I saw kids just like climbing around it. You know, I was ready to go out there and yell at them. They took off on their bikes and stuff. So just more garbage issues in the city that people don't seem to be respecting other people's.
Yeah, no, people definitely don't. I have 2 dumpsters twice a week. I tried locking them up because everybody stops and dumps in my dumpsters.
Yeah.
They broke the covers off my dumpsters to still put garbage in my dumpsters. So, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know that there's anything that can be done.
I tried to be careful.
Yeah. You just broke.
Right, yeah. Well, I ended up taking the locks off them and I just pay to have them done twice a week instead.
Do you have trouble with the dumpster behind City Hall?
We do occasionally.
Because whenever I find people leaving their box of books in the park, I bring them and because they're all wet and they can't be recycled, I dump them in there, but I always wave to the camera, so you know it's me. Right?
That explains a lot.
Yeah.
I won't keep calling about you.
I was going to ask you about some of those books, but.
I know, they're all self-help books, ironically. Eric?
Let's go with that.
Marty, thanks for the quick mowing of that hydrant over in Burnell. There's a concern of a hydrant is quickly growing in with Maine, no mow Maine. And then also the handicap sign in Barlow. I had a neighbor email me today, said they put another request in for Lincoln. They said they emailed Public Works too, I don't know if you saw it.
I got it this
Okay.
afternoon.
And then, only other question I had, someone asked, we asked during safety meeting, but I think maybe it's already been answered, is they're bringing back the park patrol this summer.
We don't have a budget specifically for Parks Patrol, but we do have some staff that will be performing those functions. So,
Oh, I had one other too, sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, thank you. Back in time, promised when they, the Champlain Valley Housing Trust purchased the property, part of the agreement was that the gardens and fences and everything would be maintained because it's a historic piece of the city. And for about 3 months, there's been large tanks and pipes and trailers and caution tape across the whole yard, side of the yard.
I've seen it too.
I don't know if anybody's approached them, but that just looks really bad, especially on one of our major, the nicer ones.
They've got a
No.
remediation project.
Going in the basement.
Gotcha.
They had a oil spill or something.
It's taken a long time, huh?
Yeah, it's a long time. All right, thank you.
Yeah.
That's it.
Tim?
I've only got about 10 things.
Okay, it's all right.
No,
We
I
got time.
Two easy ones. I'm gonna bring it up again, shopping center, the rail out front, they're bent, the rails are gone on the ground, looks like heck, and they're not keeping that facility up. So something needs to be done. This is the second time I brought that up. The other one is, I'm not sure I agreed with the decision earlier tonight on DFA, but I wasn't about to let the city manager go into a court setting without the full support of the full council. And so I voted yes.
appreciate that.
Thank you. All right. Can I have a motion to approve the warrant from 5/31/26?
Motion approved.
Thanks, Tim. Second?
Second.
Thanks, Chad. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Motion approved minutes, meeting minutes, 5/11/26.
Thank you, Tim.
I'll second.
Thanks, Lindsay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And motion to adjourn?
Move to adjourn.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Recording stop.